Alright, so this is a video that I just put out. Some useless trivia for every character in Touhou Project. But the thumbnail says cool bug facts. So if you're wondering why there's a discrepancy in that, I really wanted to make it clear that it was useless trivia and not calling it facts. Because calling them facts limited kind of what I could talk about in a way. Like, certain things I talk about aren't necessarily, like, facts. But they're not really my opinion either. You know, it's weird. It's weird to really say it. Some of these things are like true, but then some of these things are kind of speculative in a way. So I just kind of try to meet in the middle and call it useless trivia. But I also wanted to have some emphasis on it. That's like it's supposed to be one fact per character. So I was just kind of playing around with ideas for that. So I went with useless trivia. So I'll explain myself a little bit in the beginning. So yeah, this is we're watching this right now because I want to just kind of talk about different points if they're interesting, and I thought it'd be fun. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna let myself talk in the intro for a little bit, and then I'll chime in. There'll be a lot of pausing. So again, if you haven't seen this yet, you want to see it properly, go watch it on the main channel. Otherwise, be ready for a lot of interruptions from a jackass. That's the space key, and it's not tied to my video. I've made a number of videos focusing on many characters throughout Touhou at this point, and as a result, I've come across a lot of neat information regarding those characters that I've been glad to share. You know what I like? Okay, so people don't give me enough credit, but you see how the very first scene here is against Kane? Do you know why that is? Because that's the spell card, The Legend of Gengetsu. So you may think that my stock footage is completely random, and it kind of is, but sometimes my stock footage is meant to kind of go with what I'm saying, which is this right here. You know, it's The Legend of Gengetsu. And she's the history character, right? And that's why she's the opening. Yeah, see? Thank you, Chicken Fish, for the resub. So now I'm doing a video naming one piece of useless trivia for every... See? See what I did there? You see what I... You see? Oh my god, this guy's so funny. But nobody ever notices this. You see? Nobody ever notices or appreciates the amount of work that I put into every little thing I say. See? I said one piece of useless trivia, and what happened? Clown piece appeared on the screen. Isn't that... Look, that's comedy gold! Characters that I've been glad to share. So now I'm doing a video naming one piece of useless trivia for every official character in the series. You know, I actually synced it up, so... I am very meticulous with like frames to an unhealthy degree. So I actually made sure to sync it up that as soon as the first syllable, the first audible sound of the P comes out of my mouth, clown piece appears on the screen. I do that. I do that for a lot of things, actually. I'm very picky about when certain things appear on screen, timed to what I say, down to the frame. Does that cost me seconds? Yes, and it adds up. These may be rehashes of things I've mentioned in previous videos, if I think they're interesting enough to reiterate. For the most part, I'll try to choose trivia that isn't too basic, while also trying not to choose something extremely boring for the sake of uniqueness. So you see there, oops. You see there how when I'm talking about trying to avoid obvious trivia, and I'm fighting Sakuya to the world spell card. You see what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. So all of those scenes had relevancy to what I was talking about. You know, just in case you were wondering. Now then, I'll be going in game order and order of appearance. And I am including PC98. Of course. The extreme lack of trivia to pull from here, but I hope you find at least a quarter of them interesting. Reimu's full name, Hakude Reimu, oh, I like
is
this
the same
one.
in both eras of Touhou.
Yes.
The kanji used is slightly different. Here is PC98 Reimu's name, and here is Windows Reimu's name.
So you see this is pretty cool. I mean, I'm going to explain it in a second, but this is on the wiki. So a lot of the stuff you can find on the wiki. Some of it's actually not listed on the wiki at all, which I thought is neat. But I like this one for Reimu. There's a lot of things you can talk about with Reimu, but I made it so PC98 versions were different from the Windows versions, and I like this one because I didn't know this. I like this one because look at the kanji. I'll let myself talk.
The character for Rei is slightly changed, but the reading is basically the same.
So I don't know the specifics to it, mind you, but yes, Reimu's name in PC98 is spelled with the character on the left, which is like it's got like the 3 squares instead of the straight line. But they're read the same. I don't know necessarily if they mean the same. Oh, I also just noticed there's a small difference in the lower bottom one as well. I didn't notice that, actually. How did I not notice that? there's like a little yippee coming out of Windows Reimu, and then there's cross. I actually didn't notice that. So yeah, this one's kind of neat for more so for Marisa. Spoiler, but I thought this was a really cool one to start with. There are other ones that you could do for Reimu. Like there's a ton for Reimu after all, but I thought this one was cool.
SinGyoku is often regarded as 3 individual beings, but you only ever see one of them at a time in-game, the orb being the most prominent during the fight, and the only form in the ending art.
So as you know, SinGyoku is often, as I said, a lot of time you see SinGyoku, it's just kind of like the 3 of them, but the orb is the most prominent in all canon appearance, which I thought was really neat. Also, there's literally nothing to that character, so yeah, there's like nothing to that character at all. But I thought it was interesting. Another interesting bit is that apparently they're a gatekeeper, but that one, there's a reason I didn't go for that one. Actually, did it say in the ending?
The orb being the most prominent during the fight, and the only form in the ending art.
Yeah, the ending calls it a gatekeeper. So I wanted to try and make a mention of that, but I was like, nah, I couldn't find anything specific. Like, I didn't like how it was, so I ended up going with the fact that I thought it was neat how, despite my belief of SinGyoku, and I think a lot of people's belief of SinGyoku is that all 3 of them are just kind of there. But in the game, you only ever see one at a time. So I thought it was kind of neat to assume, like, okay, maybe, maybe they aren't all the same. It's one creature, but they have 3 different forms they turn into, right? Not 3 different beings all simultaneously existing.
The background of Yuga and Magan's fight changes color based on the attack it's using.
So I didn't count how many there were, and obviously it's at 400 speed, but originally I wanted to do the whole, there's a character in the middle of the electricity being shown, but honestly I couldn't really figure out how to word it in a way that was interesting, and also it's probably the only thing anybody actually knows about Yuga Magan, so I was like, that's not, that's too obvious. And so I just, listen, when I was looking for stuff, I read through the whole wiki, I watched all possible gameplay regarding the character. It took me a while to write it because I was looking for shit. All right, it took me a while to find some shit for a lot of characters, but this one I thought was actually kind of neat because there's something I don't mention here is that Yuga Magan is one of the few characters in this game whose background actually does change in any capacity. But he just has the big character in the back, which I think is the character for like evil or something. I can't remember. The kanji in the back means something like evil or curse or eyes or something like that, or demon. Something related to the fact that he's evil eyes. And every different attack has a different color for the kanji. And if you're wondering, when the fight ends and starts, it just goes gray. That's pretty cool.
Elise is one of 3 characters in the series that can turn into a bat, but she is the only one who can be damaged in this form.
I like that one. I thought that one was actually very neat, because people don't really know what Elise is, and Elise is on the Makai route, so she's from Makai. But the only other characters who turn to a bat are vampires, so there's a bit of a belief that she's like a vampire, but she's from Makai, so she's probably just a demon who could turn into a bat. But I thought that was pretty cool, actually, because Remy and Flandre turn into a bat for bomb shields, but also Remy turns into a bat for one of her nons. And then Ellie here also can turn into a bat, but you can actually hit the bat, which makes her different in that regard.
One of Sariel's fight backgrounds shows an image of Reimu that isn't present anywhere else in the game.
So this one's also really neat because I like quadruple checked that what I just said isn't bullshit. I quadruple checked it. That Reimu over there on the side is not in the game. It's not in the game files at all. That's not the results screen. That's nothing. That Reimu only exists in that bubble distorted by Sariel, and it's not even a heavily distorted version of an existing asset. There's no asset that looks like that in the game. So I don't know why that's there. Maybe Zun made one and he didn't use it, and it ended up in there. But yeah, that specifically that Reimu on the side there is not part of any not part of the game at all. Not part of the game at all. One thing I wanted to mention about Sariel was the fact that she's clearly a woman. If you look at the ending, she has boobs. But yeah, no, I thought this one was more interesting because, like I said, I looked at like everything, right? And obviously, I know that Sariel's pose and whatnot is based on SMT Demon, but there's no mention of the Reimu art. And granted, it's more of a Reimu fact than a Sariel fact, but I still thought it was pretty cool.
Mima appeared on the cover of Aku's Untouched Score, Volume 4 in 2007, making this the only canon appearance Mima has ever made in the Windows era.
This one's great because there's so much you could possibly talk about with Mima. Like the fact that she's got 3 arms in the first one. The fact that she is completely different like outfit that she goes into when she activates her wings and Touhou 2. But the one I went with was the time Zun drew Mima in Windows era. And this is it. This is the only time. In 2007, on Aku's Untouched Score, Volume 4, he has a little Mima that he drew. And this is the only Mima appearance past PC98. So I had to go with that one. Absolutely had to go with that one.
Kikuri's in-game sprite makes her look like an image carved into a surface.
This is true.
The ending art depicts her a lot more unrestrained from her disc, implying a flexibility to the female form within the moon that is often seen in the few fanworks she appears in.
Let me tell you, Kikuri is a nothing burger of a character. A nothing character. There was nothing to work with here. Nothing at all. This is the best I could do.
There are 2 characters on the left side of Kongara's outfit that are extremely hard to make out.
This one's wild to me.
Pausing, you can change most of the game's red into green.
So this green is caused by flashing with bomb or pausing, like I said. But this exists on Kongara. I have no idea what it says. I could not figure out anybody who knew what it said at all. And I have never seen any fan art of Kongara with this mark on her arm. In fact, I'm not even sure. I don't remember how I found this information. But yes, there are 2 characters in red on her red outfit. And when the game turns green like this, you can see them, but I can't read them. I have no idea what it says. But they are there on her art. They exist. But no fan art, as far as I know, has ever included these characters on her outfit. Ever. So, I don't know. I don't even know what they say. I don't even know what language that is. You would assume it's Japanese, but like, what the fuck is this? And why is it on her outfit? No one has ever talked about this. People have talked about the fact that the horn on her head looks like a spike that has impaled her on the forehead. But nobody talks about this. What is this? This is the one that I saw. Okay. Like, while I was going, I was like, all right, whatever for most of these. But this is the one I saw. I was like, wait, this is actually really interesting. But I have no follow-up information at all. So it's perfect for a video like this, where I'm not supposed to give follow-up information.
The characters, though I still don't know what it says.
Nope.
Genji is the only PC98 character with dialogue not mentioned in the Mystic Square all-cast extra credits.
So I actually need to explain this one for a second. So, the the Mystic Square all-cast extra credit ending credits this is a credit screen you get when you beat the Mystic Square extra stage. Alright? This footage, I got this from Valivan, because I asked him for it, because I needed... if you Google... If you YouTube search the Mystic Square all-cast ending, you'll get the English translated all-cast ending. The English translated all-cast ending adds the characters from Touhou 1, and it also corrects a couple spelling goofs. This here is footage of the original Japanese, not translated Mystic Square all-cast. So you'll probably notice if you go to the English one, you'll see Genji in there as a turtle. But in the original one, this is the Japanese one, where Reimu is a shaman here, Genji is not included in the all-cast credits at all. He is not. There's also a couple interesting ones, like Gengetsu and Mugetsu. Their names are Mugetsu and Gengetsu. There's the final character in their name is TU, not TSU. There's also Chiyuri, whose name is spelled Tiyuri, Chiyuri. So there's a couple quirks. But if you're wondering, the first game, Highly Responsive to Prayers, does exist in this version of the all cast credits, but it only lists Reimu as a shaman. That's it. It lists Reimu as a shaman and Marisa as a sorceress, as you can see. But Reimu is the only one credited in the first game. And then the second game, Genji is not here, and it's just Rika, Maeda, Marisa, and that's it. So, 2 and 2 are the same. Yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying that there's a couple, like, we know Gengetsu and Mugetsu as Gengetsu and Mugetsu, but in the original credits here, for the Japanese, this is Japanese making, English, right? This is Romanji, essentially, here. But Zun spelled it as Gengetsu and Mugetsu. Specifically, he left out he didn't use the su, he used the tu, right? So I just think it's neat because these are, again, Chiyuri is the most interesting one because it's Tiyuri instead of Chiyuri. And I think it's just because synonymous, like interchangeable, they work, but it's just weird because most people would know PC98 from the English translation. Because if you search this specific thing on YouTube, you're probably only going to find the English translated version that was made by GP, who went to the effort to include all of the title cards that came from the ending of Touhou 1, so all the bosses are in there with their titles given to them from the first game, as well as including Genji here, and fixing the names. Yuka is another one, actually, I just remembered. Yuka is spelled with one U. Yuka is spelled with one U here. Also, I believe it's GP. I know he's responsible for mostly all of the English translation for the PC98 era, but he went ahead and added the last names to Yuka and Alice, whereas I don't believe Alice. I mean, we'll see it later, just in case I'm wrong, but Yuka doesn't have a last name at this point. She's just Yuka. So, and she's spelled Yuka. I believe Alice is the same. I don't remember exactly, but there are changes that were important to figure out before I started mentioning specific things to this.
Rika's little sprite before the pre-fight dialogue is animated, waving her cape. That cape isn't reflected in her portrait art at all.
Yeah, so I wanted to explain this a little more because if you've seen if you've seen Rika fan art, you notice that she dresses like SpongeBob SquarePants. She's got brown shorts, a white shirt, and a red tie. But this is Rika's in-game sprite, where she has like black hair, a red cape, a full gray uniform, and she keeps waving her arm up. Why? I don't know. But if you look at the box down there, where you can't see her pants, she's got the white shirt, the white and like brown hair. What I find interesting is I think the reason why people gave her brown shorts is because of the sprite that you see, but then nothing of the sprite is reflected in her character art down here. But then it's just like common Rika depictions are the box you see plus like brown-ish pants, right? So it's just weird how completely different they are, you know?
The type of sword Maeda uses is unspecified, and comparing it to Yomu, while a bit unfair, shows it's likely not a katana.
Just want to make mention here. I don't know what causes this. You see this right here? This black square? I don't know what causes this, and I don't know how to fix it. You know why? Because when Premiere does it, it only does it once, and then it never appears on the footage again. So I can't replicate it. I don't know what causes it. And I can never see if I fix it because it never appears again unless I close the entire fucking thing down. And then it renders in the final product, even though it's not there anymore in the preview. I don't know what causes this. I just don't.
Comparing it to Yomu, while a bit unfair, shows it's likely not a katana. However, many fan depictions of Maeda feature a katana, and it's likely due to her Mystic Square all-cast title of Samurai.
So you could say, like I said, it's a little unfair, but Yomu is clearly holding a katana, a long-ass sword. I don't think Maeda's sword is very long at all. It doesn't look like a katana to me. And I think the reason why it became popular for her to be a katana was because she was known as a samurai. But also she was dressed as a samurai, so that's not too surprising that she would have a katana. Basically what I'm saying is that her sword does not look like a katana, and especially when you compare it to a character who is known to swing a katana around, it's even more obvious. But Yomu did come, 8 years, 5 years, 6 years, something like that, after Maeda did, so...
The 5 magic stones are the only end-stage boss in the series without an official name.
I shouldn't have even bothered to include this character. Why? This isn't even a character. They don't have a name. This is the only factoid that you could get, is that their name, the 5 magic stones, is not a name. They are nothing.
Marisa's name has a typo in-game.
This one's
using
cool.
the kanji for pair instead of logic.
So I like this one because this one, look at that. That's quite a typo.
The correct spelling was used in the game's omake and bad endings, as well as every other Marisa appearance to date. However, this typo is used by Japanese fans to refer to PC-98 Marisa.
I don't really have footage to show that exactly, but if you look at tagging systems on Pixiv, you can use the spelling, you can use the misstep spelling of Marisa to find Marisa stuff. But I wish I had Japanese. If I had Japanese text for Touhou Soccer here, we probably would have actually seen that specifically in Touhou Soccer as listed with that kanji. But as you saw in the ending that I showed, it's only present in the game text box for the air. But as we also know, red hair Marisa only exists in Touhou too, so it's kind of a weird version of Marisa, very beta in a sense. But yeah, I think that's really neat. So that typo, which I don't really know how much it matters to her name because her name is still Marisa, became kind of relevant in that way.
Specifically the redhead version.
Just made it so it doesn't load the English pack. This is footage from 4 years ago. You think I just booted up? You think I booted up Touhou Soccer, played, and waited for her to do an attack so I could record footage of it? Is that what you think?
The explosion caused by defeated Evil Eye Sigma is an active hitbox.
Because that's exactly what I did here. This is footage from somebody else. This Mega Man Omega's video on beating the extra stage, where I found out that if this motherfucker blows up, he hits you. And in this particular clip, the only reason he doesn't lose is because he got an extra life from getting the score from doing enough damage at the end. So he died with an extra life he immediately gained, so he didn't actually die.
I hope no one has lost a run to this by accident before. Ellen's character select and omake simply refer to her as Ellen.
Fuck you,
the
Ellen.
dream text file refers to as Fluffy
Fua,
Ellen.
fua.
She introduces herself as that to Yumemi.
Okay. So, yeah, so this here is Ellen saying, I'm Ellen, Fua Fua Ellen. But Ellen is just referred to as Ellen. But what's interesting is in the dream text, like I pulled up there, in the dream text, she is Zun refers to her as Fua Fua Ellen. So I thought that was neat. And I could have used the fact that her alternate outfit looks like Marisa, and then Marissa's Windows design looked very much like that. But then I was like, I don't know how to write this, and it's annoying. So I was looking for something else. And I was like, okay, so she calls herself Ellen, Fluffy Ellen, and the dream text calls her Fluffy Ellen, but the in-game stuff just calls her Ellen.
Kotohime is the only character in the series whose title features the kanji for Danmaku.
I thought this one was actually really cool. There were a couple things I looked at here for her, mainly just the fact that her portrait art and her character select art kind of differed in design. But seeing that this is the only character in the series with the actual Danmaku term in her name, in her title, I should say. So her title is a princess dreaming of beauty in Danmaku, and no other character in the entire series has the word Danmaku in a title at all. She's unique in this regard. I thought that was really cool.
One of Kana's most iconic features in fan works is her stop sign.
So that's not a stop sign, chat. Don't worry about it. Soccer name Marisa98. Just checked it. So it does have it does. So it is. So the Touhou Soccer does name them based on the. It does name them based on the misspelling. So I was right about that. All right, I was right about that with showing the footage. Cool. I am winner. But yeah, that's not a stop sign, chat. Oops.
Though this has never appeared in game. It actually stems from an old Zun music comment on her theme, though this comment itself never specified a stop sign in particular.
Yeah, because it's not a stop sign. Whoops. Oopsie. But she just says a damaged road sign. I guess I just thought stop sign. Whatever.
Rikako's theme does not loop for nearly 5 minutes.
Yeah.
4 minutes and 57 seconds to be exact. Zun acknowledged the song's length in his music comment, stating that at about 5 minutes per loop, it's the longest in Touhou. A statement that still holds true over 27 years later. Chiyuri's alternate outfit is actually a different character.
This one's
Her
cool.
story and ending explain that blue Chiyuri is from the outside, while red Chiyuri is a Gengetsu native who can use real magic. However, despite this, her attacks still look like blue Chiyuri's fake magic.
So yeah, like I said, every character in the game has a different outfit, an alternate outfit, but in Chiyuri's case, her alternate outfit is actually an alternate character entirely. The red Chiyuri is from Gengetsu, who can actually use magic. In the ending, they both end up returning back home with Yumemi, so that's what you're seeing here. So yeah, when I found that out, I was like, that's actually very fucking interesting. That's actually very interesting. So obviously her attack patterns are the same, but the fact that the alternate outfit is actually a completely unique character is not what I expected.
Yumemi's story mode AI is programmed with the intent to never take damage in the first round if you haven't used a continue by that point.
So this one's really cool. So there's more information linked in the description, the paste bin, to the inner workings of Touhou 3's mechanics. But basically what this is a chart that says that around certain times in the match, the AI will like intentionally try to take a hit. So you see stage 1 after 40 seconds, that the enemy will intentionally try to take a hit, and then 50 seconds, and then a minute. And the time goes up as it goes on. Obviously, the AI can still get hit if they're put in situations where they're trapped, but stage 9, which is Yumemi, has infinite. So Yumemi will not actively try to get hit after a certain time, but only in the first round. So in order to beat this game without actually like losing a round, you have to figure out how to beat Yumemi on the first round by cheesing the fuck out of her. Curious 6 minutes per round 1. Well, this is the chart that says right there that it's 1 minute and 10 seconds. Unless this is for normal mode only. But Touhou 9 has longer intentional hit bars. But there's more info in the description. I just tried to show as much, but as little as possible. You know, enough that it makes sense to what I'm saying, but not like filling the screen with a wiki page. Yeah, this is for normal mode. I grabbed the chart specifically from normal mode because I felt like that was the most indicative of most people's experience.
And this applies to every difficulty. It's still possible to win this round, but it really seems like you weren't intended to.
Yep.
In Reimu's ending, there's a long-haired...
So this is one of those ones where I'm not calling it a fact because this one just confuses me. I really don't get this one.
green robot serving her. Though in the ending, Reimu laments to Marisa about Rukoto's inability to clean. Then Rukoto, with a broom and obviously short hair, walks in to ask Reimu where she was supposed to be sweeping again. So who the hell is this long-haired girl next to Reimu?
Who is that? Who is that? You can't actually expect me to believe that that is the same character who was just on the screen with the broom, right? There's just no way. There's just no way that's the same character. I don't believe it for a second.
The very last line of Marisa's ending has Mimi-chan saying Kyun, which means Mimi can speak.
Look at the fucking text color there. You can't even read that shit. That is unreadable.
Meaning it might be sentient.
So, Mimi-chan and also Rukoto, they're both based on different characters. Mimi-chan is based on like I don't remember what it was called, but it's basically a guest character, a non-infringing guest character. So if that character that this thing's based off of can talk, then there you go. But I wasn't even gonna bother including those two because who cares? But I just ended up doing it anyway because I found something slight that worked for them, and I was like, whatever, we'll We'll just go. Yeah, Multi shows up in the game with a sensor bar over her eyes. And then she gets, and slapstick happens because you can't use that. It's copyrighted material.
Orange's hair turns blue during her final phase. All 3 seconds of it. If your rank value is too low on easy mode, then during the Kudamaki fight, the game will crash.
So there's also an explanation on why this happens. I think it's linked in the same place you could find the Umemi chart. But it has to do with, I guess, direction, bullet velocity, or some shit like that. I don't remember the specifics, but the long and short of it is that if your rank is too low, it causes an issue and the game crashes. And I didn't discover this. This was not a new find, but I found this out on my own because when I was doing my Can You Beat Touhou Without Moving run, when I got to Touhou 4, and since I'm not moving, I'm pressing bomb and I'm dying, my rank is at the absolute minimum. I'm playing on easy mode because obviously I'm playing on easy mode. And then when I got to Kudamaki, the game crashed multiple times, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I kind of concluded, or I figured out after the fact because I asked someone. But yeah, if your rank gets too low on Kudamaki, the game crashes. It's not meant to account for that. So that happened to me through by accident. I was like, well, I'll be damned. I'll be damned. But yeah, that one I thought was cool, so I wanted to include that one again.
Ellie takes more damage when timing down her phases.
This one's really weird.
If you time out all of her attacks, she'll die when the 5th and final phase is supposed to begin.
So, based on what you see in the health bar here, again, more explanation in the description, but if you didn't know, PC98 actually does have timers on attacks, but you don't see them. And for some reason, when you time Ellie out, she progressively loses more HP from the timeout than when you shoot it down and hit the threshold for the different phases. So you can see pictured here, at phase 1, full health. Phase 2, it's like the same. Phase 3, it's slightly less. Phase 4, it's noticeably less. And then in phase 5, it just does enough damage to kill her without there actually being a final phase. Because you see, when you shoot her down to red, she enters her final phase. But if she times out from phase 4 there, she times out down to 0, and then she just dies. She just dies from purple health. It's very weird.
If you time out all of her attacks, she'll die when the 5th and final...
Cheesed out Mystic Square Alice Fear phase that way. That's not cheese. That's how you do that. That's how you do that one. Because you can't shoot that. If you shoot that, it reflects. You're just supposed to wait it out, and it goes away.
Phase is supposed to begin. Yuka doesn't use her trademark parasol at all in Mystic Square gameplay, though it does make appearances in some of her endings.
Yeah, so I thought this one was neat. I show pictured here.
Parasol at all in Mystic Square gameplay.
For some reason, when Yuka uses her bomb in Touhou 5, she pulls out a baton. I don't know why she has a baton, but her umbrella is not present in the game, but it is present in a couple endings. Which is funny because her extra ending and her good ending are basically the same, but Marisa is replaced with Alice. So it's the same ending, but instead of Marisa here, it's Alice. It's actually kind of comical. But yeah, she does appear with her umbrella here, or her parasol here, and that's kind of it.
Appearances in some of her endings. Sun's comment on Mugetsu's theme seems to suggest that Mugetsu isn't actually a maid. However, he gave her the title of maid later on in the Mystic Square Allcast.
So here is, as I was saying, so look at this. We have, first of all, we have Orange and Yuka, who are both classified as Oriental Demon. That was something I was considering using. I thought that was pretty neat. But it's literally just because they're both yokai, so that's why they both have that name. Ellie is spelled here E-L-L-I-Y. Ellie. Yuka, no last name given yet at this point, and spelled with one U. And Mugetsu and Gengetsu. We got maid and demon. So yeah, this point here was just about the fact that Mugetsu is classified as a maid according to this, but this music comment from Zun says that she's not a maid. She's cosplaying as a maid.
The first kanji in Gengetsu's name is the same kanji used in the word Gensokyo, and she is the only character in the series to use this kanji in their name.
So this one's actually kind of expected, mainly because, if you didn't know, Touhou 4 Lotus Land Story is called Touhou Gensokyo. That's the first use of Gensokyo in the lore. is the title of the game. So Gengetsu here has the same character as Gensokyo, which is cool because Gensokyo is the name of the world, but then, you know, Gengetsu is just kind of... She's also got the fucking Among Us... She's got the Among Us character in her name as well. So yeah, just like Kotohime, it's a very significant character or like term to the whole Touhou as a whole, but it's unique to this one character, which I thought was really cool. Because like Gengetsu, Gensokyo, same character for Gen, and she's the only one with a character like that. And again, it's just because the game is called Touhou Gensokyo, and so but I know why it is, but I still thought it was cool.
And she is the only character in the series to use this kanji in their name.
And you're gonna love this
Sara
one.
spins during her last two phases, beating Hina out as the OG by almost a decade.
Can you believe that shit? Can you believe that shit? I was looking for Sara stuff. I watched a fight against Sara, and I was like, wait a minute, she fucking spins. And she doesn't just spin, she goes like Mach spin.
Sara spins during her
Look at
last
that.
two phases, beating Hina out as the OG by almost a decade.
Look at that fucking speed, dude. She did that. She does that for her last two attacks. And then Hina came in Mountain of Faith and was like, I'm the spin demon. But no, Sara was doing it first. Actually kind of insane.
There was a belief that Louise is both the Stage 2 boss and the Stage 4 mid-boss.
Yeah, so this one's just...
more than likely due to Louise for using Louise's sprite, as there's no actual confirmation on it. It is worth noting that while both share 3 out of 4 bullet types, they each have a unique type from each other. Louise uses lasers, while Louise uses kunai. Also, Louise teleports, while Louise does not.
This is partially why I believe that the Makai residents all just kind of look like Louise. I don't think necessarily the Louise over here is actually Louise. There is some similarities, but they also have differences. But it's a pretty common thing to just call Louise. You know, they call her Louise for a reason, right? It just looks like Louise. It's a reused asset, mind you. But I just thought it was neat to talk about and kind of give specifics to their attack patterns, because I thought it was neat, and there's not much else going for the character at all.
Alice's red magic attacks put a wheel of flames around her, but every other color uses the same blue sparkles effect.
I thought this one was neat. So, you can't really see it because it's horrendous bitrate. But, in the first set of attacks, the red magic attacks, Alice has a ring of flames that circles around her. But then every other attack after that, blue magic, yellow magic, green magic, purple magic, all that, it's all the same sparkle effect. So the red magic has its own unique effect, but then all the other ones have their own. They just share a sparkly effect. And I wonder if that was because Zun planned to have more effects based on the magic, or he just, you know, he ran out of time, he didn't care. But it's very weird to me that the red magic got its own special effect, and then everything after that was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. Now, obviously, you could say that's an extremely boring thing to talk about for Alice. There's tons of things you can talk about, like the thing everybody fucking knows about her, how she was, you know, her origins are based on different Alices from different works of fiction. Again, trying not to pick stuff that is blatantly obvious, but I thought this was interesting. That's why I included this.
Yuki's second last phase doesn't have any sound effects for her shooting. She shoots the same bullet type in her final too, but those do have sound effects.
I got the audio for this one. Just nothing. Doesn't make a noise. But then there they are right there making a noise.
The dialogue you get...
Like, I thought that was really weird. I can't think of a single boss who has a completely silent attack like that.
when shooting down Yuki or Mai is the same for all characters, except when Mima shoots down Yuki.
This one's cool.
Instead of Mai saying she's no longer being dragged down, she refers to Yuki as the dead weight being gone.
So yeah, Mima's the only one with unique dialogue there with Mai. Mai will say, "Hey, you're not bad. You get an interrobang," and she'll say what she says. But Mima will respond to her, and then she'll refer to Yuki as dead weight. I feel like the topic or the conversation with Mima is the one most people know because Mima is the best character in that game by a long shot, and it's just the most impactful thing that she says about Yuki in general.
The Mystic Square Omake states that Yumeko is throwing whole-ass swords.
Easy
not
one.
Knives.
Easy one here, but I still think this one is cool. I think this one is really cool. I had to mention it.
Zun made a new theme for Shinki for the 2008 DNA Software's fan game, Magus and Mystic Geometries, titled An Ordeal from God. This is currently the newest theme of a PC98 only character done by Zun to date.
Yeah, so that was he made a Shinki theme for that game because Zun has worked with DNA Softwares for a couple things. They're the ones responsible for Touhou Mahjong, and I thought that was really neat. Now, the newest like mix of a PC98 theme is actually the Grimoire of Alice from Hiso Tensoku, which is why I specify PC98 only, because Shinki is not in Windows at all. But Grimoire of Alice is mixed in 12.3. I don't know if it's by Zun, mind you, but yeah. An Ordeal from God was made by Zun, so technically it is an official Touhou character theme.
PC98 is finished. Now starts Windows. Just popping in for a breather, and to tell you that written work characters will be mentioned by release date as if
foreshadowing,
games, with one exception.
Ooh.
Although a very popular outfit design for Reimu is giving her Sarashi, Zun has never drawn her wearing it.
Yep.
And the few times you can see that area
only
on art
two
always depicts an undershirt.
Literally only two. These are the only fucking two that I could find of Zun drawn Reimu where this applies, and it is just these two. All the others are from spin-off games drawn by others.
There's a popular belief that Marissa's
Master
one. Spark was taken from Yuka. What's funny about this is that Yuka is the only pre-Windows UFO character to not have an article in the Grimoire of Marissa. Even funnier, Marissa's non-directional laser is blatantly taken from Patchouli, but it's absent from her entry in the book. The actual reason for these is that Yuka has no spell cards to write about, as POFE's attacks aren't included, and Patchouli's lasers are non-spells, not spell cards.
Yeah, so like I just said there, Yuko didn't appear as a boss and shoot the bullet, so she doesn't have any spell cards for Marissa to copy. All the other characters from this game were in Shoot the Bullet, and also Mount of Faith, because Aya, but Yuka didn't make any more appearances, so there's nothing written on Yuka. And then Patchy with the non-directional laser. The non-directional laser is not a spell card, and the book is full of spell cards. So I do like that I just kind of explained it like that, but I thought it was fun to kind of poke at it, where Marissa stole Master Spark. There's no article on Yuka at all, and Marissa stole like two spell cards that Marissa like definitely was inspired by, have no record of in the book that she wrote about spell cards that she was going to use as reference material for her own patterns. I thought that was pretty neat.
Perfect Memento in Strict Sense mentions that Rumia is basically always cloaked in darkness.
So this one here, chat, this one is me trying to, this is my game theory. I'm putting my game theory hat on for this one.
The only time she seemingly isn't is on nights of a new moon. Aya's article on the Scarlet Mist incident in Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red illustrates Reimu's encounter with Rumia, and while the location is slightly off, you can't see any moon, meaning EOSD Stage 1 could have taken place on a night of a new moon. However, with Stage 6 being on the night of a full moon, Stage 1 would have had to take place weeks before the rest of the game.
I love anecdotal evidence. So yeah, Aku claims that the only time you don't see Rumia with Cloaked in Darkness is during nights of a new moon. You see Rumia in the game, but then also the game ends on a full moon. But I just thought it was kind of neat to talk about, because it's like, why can you see Rumia in the game if supposedly she's never like really visible unless specific circumstances are in place, you know? And I know that it's a game, asshole, is an easy answer, but sometimes it's fun to look at things through the lens of that doesn't count as an explanation, and that's what I did there. Because I beats just talking about the ribbon, the Ofuda, right? Because everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
AOSA got an updated boss sprite for Great Fairy Wars that is noticeable.
The mist was covering the moon, then why was it not red? Why was it not red? Why is the second stage full of daylight? Why does the game go from night to day? And like, the whole fucking Stage 1 doesn't even make any sense to begin with. It's dark, and then it's daytime, and then it's dark by the end of it. You think Reimu was out there the whole day? I don't get it. Rumia just kind of exists, and her pathing makes no real sense to any of the game at all.
Possibly larger than EOSDs.
So, it's hard to compare these two because I have to blow them up to be like the same size, and then that makes them look like they're the same size. But you see, there are some differences. I was gonna mention it, but in the extra stage, these Daiose and Lily White are both of the mid-stage bosses, and you can see those two next to each other. And Daiose is much bigger than Lily. So I probably should have used that as a better example, but glorp.
Chirno has a different spell card in the earliest version of Perfect Cherry Blossom. This spell card was called Freeze Actress, and it was replaced with Frost Columns.
Freeze Actress is gone.
Again. Due to the nature of Mei Ling's inclusion in Immaterial and Missing Power and her story in Hisotensoku, nothing she does in either game actually happens. The only arguable exception is her first fight against Patchouli, since it's unclear if she had fallen asleep by that point.
So I talked about this one a couple times on stream. You know, I took a shot at Mei Ling about it. But I thought this was neat instead of just talking about the pants. So, because Mei Ling was added after the fact in Immaterial Missing Power, she had no story mode. She's versus only. She was not included in Scarlet Rhapsody, and she was one of the 3 stories in Hisotensoku, but you see in her story at the ending, she's asleep. But it's not clear if she's asleep at this point, or if she fell asleep after this point. So, this might be the only thing that Mei Ling actually did in the entirety of the fighting games that actually happened. But it's also possible she was asleep, because she was definitely asleep by the second fight. But it's not. It's arguable on this one. But I like to believe that it means that, yes, Mei Ling's inclusion, despite being in 2 fighting games, has done literally nothing at all during both of them, even though she's in both of them. Or in 2 of them.
Cameo in Strange and Bright Nature Deity led to the belief that there was more than one Koakuma, due to the differences in hair length.
So, like I've written here on the side that you definitely didn't read, because why would you do that? It's possible that this wasn't the cause, and this was just affected by whatever started it. But yes, there was a point in Koakuma history where it wasn't one Koakuma, there was thought to be many Koakumeni. And, yeah, some of them had different hairstyles. So there was a short hair Koakuma and a long hair Koakuma. And you can see remnants of that in different games, like the puppet games, for example, where the short-haired ones are like variants of different forms of Koakuma. There's also in Super Marisa World, which Super Marisa World is the kind of the reason why I included this text blob here. Because in Super Marisa World... In Super Marisa World, the secret exit is defined by a different Koakuma from the normal exit. One's short-haired, one's a long-haired one. But that game came out before this chapter. So this chapter did not mean that. So that's why I put that. It is very possible that something else popularized that. And this cameo in Silent Sinner in Blue was just because of that. So I don't know the origin of it, but it's hard to track down stuff like that from the early 2000s that probably originated from an obscure Japanese fandom board that no longer exists and hasn't existed for like 10 years. So I would love to know the origin of short hair Koakuma, like properly, because I don't think this is actually it. This might have been what popularized it a little more because it's an official works here, but I don't think this was not the root cause of it. It couldn't be, just based on the fact that Super Marisa World existed with short hair Koakuma in it before this. So it had to have existed in some capacity prior to this chapter.
Patchouli has no spell card that combines the elements of wood and earth. This is the only combination of her 5 main elements to not have any spell card attributed to them, unless you count Philosopher's Stone, which uses all 5.
You know what's funny? Is that I combed through all 35 of her spell cards, and I noticed that 2 elements weren't used, and I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. And then I found out that that is already mentioned in the wiki, like, under her abilities. It's like, to this day, there are no spell cards with these 2 elements used. And I was like, motherfucker, I could have just read that, and I would have been fine. But yeah, Patchy has a lot of spell cards, and she has a lot of combo spell cards that she does. In fact, she has like 3 or 4 spell cards that combined metal and earth, I believe. It's Emerald Megalith. She has like 2 or 3 versions of that, and she also has a different one that uses that in the fighting games. But specifically, she doesn't have whatever one I just mentioned. I forget. She doesn't have any combo of what I just mentioned, which is really interesting because she has so many different combinations. She has 7 abilities. She doesn't combine sun and moon with everything, but all the other elements, the fire, water, wind, wood, or not wood, wind, wood, metal, and earth, they're all kind of combined except for 2. That's it.
Sakuya's EOSD Omake gives her an age range of 10 to 20
Of course
years old,
I included this
Sakuya
one.
Sakuya apparently stated in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense that she was in her early teens.
Late, I meant late.
Go off her debut to now, she's comfortably over 21.
She's 23.
Rumia's most used title, the Scarlet Devil, comes from the fact that she is a messy eater,
Spaghetti,
often staining her clothes red in the process. This is mentioned in both of her EOSD Omake and her article in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense.
So it's double backed up. The Scarlet Devil. That's the Scarlet Devil. Why? Because she spills blood on her nice clothes when she eats. The stupid little bastard.
Flandre is often referred to in fanworks as Imoto-sama.
Imoto-sama!
It is a very popular nickname for Flan. However, it was only ever used in canon once by Patchouli during her mid-boss text against Marisa.
This one's really cool. So, most of us know this, right? Whenever characters in voiced works mention Flandre, like Sakuya or Patchouli or Mei-ling, they always refer to her as Imoto-sama, right? And I was like, okay, so what is the origin of this nickname exactly? And it turns out that it was only ever said once in canon, which not surprising because it's not like fucking Flandre exists in any other game. But Patchy says it here, but it's translated in the English version to say first the little sister, now you, because we don't use honorifics in English, right? But in Japanese, the title that she has there, which you can see, she is referring to her as Imoto-sama, which is, what everybody in the Scarlet Mansion except Remy ends up calling her in most fictional works. So I thought, like, that's really neat. That's really fascinating. So yeah, one of her most well-known nicknames is kind of a lost line in the English translation of the game. I thought that was really neat.
Aku claims that there are no reports of anyone seeing Letty outside of winter. However, she makes a cameo in Hopeless Masquerade, a game set in summer.
If you don't believe me about that, I believe one of the endings. I didn't show it. I probably should have, but I believe at least one of the endings specifies that this game takes place in the summer. And also, yes, Letty is right there, and it's summertime. So, Aku's a liar.
Even if Hopeless Masquerade happened after the fact.
She only 7 years difference. It's not like Letty can just show up in 7 years or anything like that. No. It's not allowed. Point is, Aku book believes that you won't see Letty outside of winter, and Hopeless Masquerade proves that Letty can be seen at a winter. Aku lie.
Chen makes a real goofy expression in both Reimu and Sakuya's route.
Love this one.
Sakuya, she does it twice.
Yeah, okay, this one's really neat. Well, actually, I'll let myself talk.
Both times are when Sakuya is the one talking. I don't know if this is the only instance of expressions changing when the character isn't speaking in the series. Very well could be.
Do you see that? Right? So, like, Sakuya is currently talking. Chen has faded back, and then she pops the face. But that happens while Sakuya is the one talking. I don't think any other character does that. So, like, her expression changes. She does this twice, but her expression changes while Sakuya is the one talking, where normally it's just the cutting, like, there's no change until the character comes back and, like, they're the one talking, right? I can't think of any other character whose expression changes while the other character is talking. So Chen's, like, the only example of this, and I thought that was really, really neat. And also, it's a funny face. It's great to have it.
Well, could be. The Touhou 8 trial Omake explains that Alice was brought back in PCB
recycled footage
for Marisa for an idea of a future human yokai team game. Zun later said in Strange Creators that she was brought back in PCB with the intention of misleading people on the story's direction. While the stated reasons seem to have shifted a bit in the decade gap between comments,
reused
the
footage.
Important part is that Alice came back. According to Zun's emails,
reused footage
in PCB isn't because she can't speak, but because she's expressing herself via something like body language.
Reused joke.
Lily still hasn't spoken in any of her other game appearances she's made ever since, but she does have user comments in the Grimoire of Usami, if you want to count that as her speaking.
Yeah, so this is the only instance. So as you saw in the footage, Lily has a spell card, doesn't have a spell card cut in. And she does this in Grimoire Busami, and she has a comment where she's talking. So it's possible that she can speak based on this. And the emails also say that it's not that she can't speak, but she just doesn't speak, So it's very possible and highly likely that she does speak.
Lunasa has placed higher than her sisters on every Touhou project popularity poll since their debut.
This one's neat because this is like one of the... Lunasa's factoid is actually very unique, I think, from every other character. So, the first appearance of the Prism Rivers was 2003. The second, I have it written there. You see, the Prism Rivers as a whole were voted as number 4, with Lunasa ranking 11th individually. And then Lyrica and Merlin are down in 19th and 22nd. Look at that. 17 votes, 27 votes, 161 votes. And then we got the current year, 2024. Lunasa is now ranked 90. And Merlin is right behind her. So, well, no, sorry. Merlin's not right behind her. I just cut all the stuff between Lunasa and Merlin because I couldn't fit it all on screen. But the difference between them is 26 placements. Lunasa and Merlin are 26 placements away. And then Lyrica is down at 125th. And Lyrica is only 90 votes away from Merlin, but Merlin is like 361 votes from Lunasa. And so Lunasa has always been above them since their debut. Lunasa has always been like considerably higher ranked than both of her sisters ever since they were released. But Lyrica and Merlin have swapped placements numerous times over various popularity polls. I thought that was very interesting.
Merlin and Lyrica have passed each other many times, but neither have ever come close to reaching Lunasa's individual popularity. Merlin's ability to lift people's spirits with her music is reflected in POFE's Versus mode, where whenever she wins a set, her opponent will have a smile on her face.
This is also applies to Lunasa, by the way. Whenever Lunasa beats somebody, they always look very sad, but most characters do that anyway when they're blown up, so, But Merlin's, I think, is neat because, as you can see here, when Merlin wins, her opponent is always smiling. They're always happy, So I think that's really cool. That's a really nice, small detail. And remember, Merlin and Lunasa are only playable in verses. Lyrica's the only one with a story. So it's cool that they actually have specifics to their wins in versus mode.
Lyrica's keyboard in PCB is signed with the initials LP, and got a seemingly new keyboard in POFE that says Prism. That itself would be enough, but I wanted to mention that Lyrica isn't the only LP in the family, and given that the Prism Rivers didn't start playing music until after Layla had passed, it's possible this PCB keyboard was a personal belonging of someone else. The nickname Myon...
So her keyboard, I've mentioned this a few times. Lyrica's keyboard was originally looked like a toy in PCB. And then in Touhou 9, she got an actual keyboard that said Prism on it, and you can only really see in the character select screen. But you can see that keyboard again in 15.5 when she's on stage. So that keyboard has stuck, but her original keyboard from Touhou 7 is a completely different keyboard that's initialed LP instead of just saying Prism. And I thought it was really neat because if you know what the Prism River story, they didn't pick up music until after Layla had passed. So I thought it was interesting to think about that. Like, what if, they found instruments they liked, and it's possible that that keyboard just belonged to Layla. I mean, probably belonged to Layla because all the instruments belong to the Prism Rivers. But it being initialed LP means it was probably a personal belonging of her. So why did Lyrica get rid of it? It's a good question, Mega Man. I don't know, but. Yes, there's also Lunasa Prism River. 3 of the Prism Rivers are named with L, so, But I think Layla is the most interesting one to poke at there. Anyway, this is Yomu. Let me back up a little bit.
The nickname Myon is used to refer to Yomu's phantom half in the West. However, it's always been a nickname for Yomu herself, and is used as such by the Japanese fandom.
So, a little more info on this. So, this is a portmanteau, which is the combination of 2 words to, make a word. So, the line here is, it's combining 2 words. I forget what they are, I completely forget what they are because I wrote this like months ago, but it's the words are combined to have her say Myonna, and that's why the nickname stuck, and that's why Yomu is called Myon, but we overseas refer to her ghost half as Myon. I don't really know how that happened, but yeah, Myon itself, the nickname Myon is Yomu herself, but I think a lot of people overseas know it as the ghost half, whereas it was always meant to be a nickname for Yomu.
Rikako underwent 2 name changes in PCB's development, starting with Ayaka,
reused from the unused content video,
until settling on Yuyuko. The only time Ron has ever taken off her hat was in the Border Team endings in Imperishable Night.
Yep.
However, the first time we could see under the hat, specifically her ear, was when she was defeated in the extra stage.
It's hard to see. It is hard to see, but you can kind of see it. Her ear is very yellow. The ears are very orange in the ending. There's actually an article on Hot Springs and Alternative Facts in Eastern Utopia where Aya takes a picture of Yukari and Ron and Chen in a hot spring, and Ron is wearing her hat, and Aya actually comments on that. She asks her why she's wearing her hat, and I believe Ron says something along the lines of because Aya is there. So she doesn't want people to see under her hat, but then her hat is off in the IN ending, and when you blow her up in PCB, you can see the hat gets ripped, and you can see her little ear. You can see her little ear exposed.
Yukari's appearance as a boss in every game after PCB uses some alternate colored version of the PCB portrait. They also use the PCB spellcard background that isn't recolored at all, except for in Violet Detector, where all of Yukari's appearances use her partner's spellcard backgrounds.
So this one I specify for a specific reason. So this is reused from the Inconsistency video, and I mentioned that when Yukari appears, she appears in this alternate outfit in all the games she appears in, and for some reason, in Shoot the Bullet and Double Spoiler, when she does this, the background is still just regular Yukari, and that's the background
they also use
that is used.
PCB spellcard background that.
Yeah, so these are used here. But I also mentioned up top that Yukari appears in Violet Detector.
Isn't recolored.
If you go on the wiki says that the previous information I just told you applies to Violet Detector. It does not. Yukari does not have a spellcard background in Violet Detector. Her spellcard background is just whatever the fuck is going on with her partner. So that Yukari cut in from PCB is not present in Violet Detector at all. And I specifically am specifying this because the wiki does not specify that. So the wiki is wrong, and I am right, and somebody better change it.
For
That's
Violet
all.
Detector, where all of Yukari's appearances use her partner's spellcard backgrounds.
That's all.
Every album that Renko appears on features her hat in some way, except for Dateless Bar Old Adam, where not only is the hat missing, Renko is also wearing a white hairband ribbon.
So the obvious reason for this is because they're at an adult indoor establishment, because Maribel's not wearing her hat either. But that's not the point here. The point is that Renko is wearing her hat, or her hat is present on every single album. Her hat is present on every single album cover, but not this one. She's not wearing it, but it's also not on her lap. It's not on her persons. It's just not there. It's gone. And she's wearing a hairband, which I don't think people wear hairbands while they're wearing hats. So why is she wearing a hairband and no hat? Is it because the hairband looks like the ribbon band that's on her hat? Or is it because she got all dressed up and left her hat at home? Who knows? But Renko is very boring, so I didn't really care that much. Now Maribel's actually, I thought was very interesting.
According to Neo-Traditionalism of Japan's Track 10, Maribel's ability has evolved to the point where she can share what she sees with others by covering another's eyes with her hands, although this ability is currently unstable. This ability isn't explored at all after this, but I think it's worth noting, as it's seemingly something that Maribel can do that Yukari cannot.
So the likely explanation here is that the mentioning of her being able to show her vision doesn't matter to Yukari, because Yukari can just open a gap and show you what, she can just do that. But I specifically found it neat because, like, this is something that Maribel can do, and it sounds like something that Yukari probably could do or has no need to do, but she doesn't, and it's never explained or mentioned that she can in any real capacity. So this is the one real difference between the characters' powers. Is, as far as we know, whenever Yukari shows somebody something, she just throws them through a fucking hole, and there you go, you can see it. But Mary can put her hands over your eyes and show you things. Can Yukari do that? As far as I know, no. But again, it's possibly just a developing power in this sense, right? It could be a developing power where obviously Yukari has no need to do that because she can just fucking send you to the location in general. But I thought it was really interesting because it's only mentioned in that line. That is the only part in the Hifu story that mentions that Maribel can do that. And it's a one-off line that's just like, yeah, she can do this. It's not that stable though. And then it's never mentioned again at all. I was like, that's actually really interesting. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually have her do that before. Like, I've never seen that in fiction works with Maribel, or she covers somebody's eyes with her hands and shows them things. I've never seen that. So it's one of those underutilized or even just lesser known or forgotten abilities of hers because no explanation or exploration is ever really given to it after its first very lukewarm initial reveal.
Tokiko makes a single cameo after her debut in Curiosities of Lotus
Die!
Asia in Forbidden Scrollery, though it's only a visual appearance.
I love this little cameo, though. That little cameo is great. It's Chapter 2 Forbidden Scrollery. You get Lily and Tokiko flying around.
Often associated with the theme Kids Festival Innocent Treasures. However, this is actually Zun's theme. Zun did compose an original theme for Renosuke titled Curious Old Shanghai Tile for the fan game Touhou Unreal Mahjong. So technically, he has an official theme of his own.
It's when I killed Luna in a game of Mahjong. Ooh, killed her. Yeah, so I mentioned in Shinki's bit with Ordeal from God. Again, DNA Software made Touhou Mahjong, and Zun composed a theme for Renosuke, which is Curious Old Shanghai Tile, which technically gives Renosuke his own theme, because again, composed by Zun, technically official, even if it's not for an official Touhou work. But a lot of people associate Renosuke's theme with Innocent Treasures or Children's Festival, which is actually Zun's theme. Why that is, I'm not sure, but it's a good theme. But yeah, I just think that I thought that's pretty neat.
According to the Strange Creators interview with Unabara Iruka and Zun, Tassafro originally wanted to give Suika white eyes, but it was shot down by Zun, saying that it would have been trying to catch a trend and wouldn't age well.
So, could you imagine, chat? So there's a link there to Namikai Harukaze. If you click that link on the wiki, again, source in the description, you will find their art has faces like this. This is the example of white eyes. And the best examples I can give you were Kadama's and Hatsune Miku. So there was a very real possibility that Suika would look like this. But their second attempt was to give her the closed eyes, that kind of jovial look, which better fit her anyway. It was much better fitting for her. But there was a very real possibility that Suika would have a face like this. That would have been something.
Wriggle's last word spell card comment reads, I think Wriggle is a bit slow in the head. It's a pity, since she has to face the player characters in this title. Chirno might be better for her to play with. It's more likely that Wriggle, and by extension Mistia, ended up forming Team 9 with Chirno, Dai, and Rumia due to similar stage boss positions. But Zun's comment here could have played a small role in that.
I don't know how much impact it would actually have, but I did find that pretty interesting when looking at Wriggle stuff. The fact that Zun specifically name-dropped Chirno and was like, I bet Wriggle and Chirno would have fun together. And as you know, Team 9, which consists of Stage 1 and 2, Stage 2, 1 and 2, EOSD and IN, they're the group, plus Rumia and Dai, they're all there. And it's like, is it possible that Wriggle and Mistia got roped into their shenanigans because of Zun's comment? Or is it just kind of like, I thought that was interesting. I don't know how much of an impact his comment had on the formation of Team 9. That's really what it is. I thought that was neat to talk about. All right, so this next one is going to be a bit wordy, but I'll talk a bit about it when it's done.
Mistia's ability to cause night blindness comes from a misinterpretation of a passage about sparrows in a yokai dictionary. The entry in question was Yoro Suzume wo toreba yamosho ni naru, translated to
Don't mind the
catching
Japanese.
a sparrow at night gives you night blindness.
Don't mind the Japanese.
And it was misinterpreted as Yosuzume wo toreba yamosho ni naru, translating to catching a night sparrow gives you night blindness, due to Japanese grammar reasons. This mistake wasn't by Zun, but by Mizuki Shigeru, the author of Gegege no Kitaro, an extremely prolific name in the world of modern yokai interpretation.
So, I learned this from Hakanai, because he found this out. And I was trying... We spent like an hour trying to figure out how I can word it in a condensed format for this video. Because it was really cool. So basically, what is being said here, and I have linked to the tweet that Hawk and I made about it, and I also have a link to the book in question where the passage comes from, and a link to the blog post that originally found it. But essentially, I don't know Japanese, mind you, so it took a while to really understand this, but essentially, the passage was read and misread, which led to the idea that night sparrows have the ability to cause night blindness. And this was an accident. This is a misinterpretation by this guy who is really... A lot of his work has a lot of bearing on modern yokai interpretations. As I said, he's the author of Gegege no Kitaro, which is really, really well known. Huge for yokai, like forming of yokai in like general for modern audiences. And he made a mistake here. And so Mistia, who is a night sparrow, who has the ability to cause night blindness, is... Her ability is a direct cause of this accidental interpretation, but it's not Zun's fault, is the thing. This isn't because Zun got it wrong. It's because somebody else made a mistake. Somebody who's really, really impactful in this scene made a mistake, and it got interpreted like that. And then Zun's character, who is a night sparrow, took that as an ability, and that's why Mistia's ability is to cause night blindness, even though the sparrows in question here don't actually... That's not actually a thing they're supposed to do. So that level of... That's like a game of telephone. It's like a game of telephone. So there's one slight issue. So Hawk and I will probably be able to explain it better than I can. But essentially, just the placing of characters and how you're supposed to read the characters in context is what causes it to... You're supposed to read it as Yoro Suzume, which is like sparrow at night, but it was read as Yoro Suzume, one word, which is night sparrow. So the translation got turned from sparrow at night to night sparrow, hence why night sparrow caused night blindness, and then bada bing, bada boom. So Mistia's ability to cause night blindness is caused by this. And I was like, that's really fascinating. How the fuck do I word that in a way that I can fit that in like a little segment and have it make sense? So this is one of the coolest facts that I got for the video, because this is one that I don't think anybody actually knew, and probably even less understood what the fuck I just said. I think that's really cool. So yeah, I wish I had more kind of like that, but there's still plenty that I'm pretty proud of finding here.
The kanji used for Kana's surname,
I like this one,
literally translates to Upper White Swamp. However, the kanji used for White Swamp are the same used in the word Hakutaku. What's funny about this is that in Aku's article on Theory Tropes regarding acquired Theoryentropy...
So I'll pause it here for a second. So yes, Kamishirasawa, Upper White Swamp. The characters for White Swamp are the same characters used for Hakutaku. Yes, streamer, she's aware Hakutaku, obviously. Yes, I know, but what's cool about this is the part that I get to talk about here at the end, where Aku has in the Gensokyo Chronicle, Aku has a category on Theoryentropes, which Aku is the only one a part of, but she also has an article explaining the difference between acquired Theoryentropy and being born with it. And the different things that are mentioned here for acquired Theoryentropy fit Kane to a T. Having, only really having horns, fangs, or tails. I haven't shown there, right? It's all shown there on the screen. Essentially, what Aku is explaining, the fact that is that Kane became a Hakutaku later in life. She wasn't born as a Hakutaku.
fits Kane perfectly. Basically what this means is Kana became a were-Hakutaku later in life, not from birth. So unless she changed her name after being cursed, her name was some kind of prophecy.
And that right there is why I bothered with it. So I could have stopped the topic at like, oh, her name has the characters for Hakutaku. Ooh, she's a Hakutaku. But I thought it was really cool because it's pretty clear. I think it's pretty cut and dry that she is, she acquired her therianthropy later in life. She wasn't born as a part Hakutaku. But her name has Hakutaku in it, right? So it's either she was born and her name was that and it was like foreshadowing or just fate, or she changed her name specifically to reflect that. And I thought that was kind of funny to think about. Obviously, it's because Zun chose the name because he knew she was a Hakutaku to begin with. But I like the idea that her name was just Kane Hakutaku. Kane White Hakutaku, and then she became a Hakutaku and was like, fuck. Well, guess this is me now.
Tei's most used design comes from her POFE portrait.
Reused content.
She is often portrayed as barefoot like she was in
Whoa!
The reason for this is likely because the only full body image of Tei available in POFE is the character select screen, completely colored blue.
So this is interesting because some of you might point out that, streamer, I've actually seen this particular Tei. This Tei is colored. What are you talking about? And that's the crazy part because Slash actually looked into this. So these full body renders, with the exception of Reimu, Marisa, Sakuya, I believe Chirto and Mistia, because in the demos of Touhou 9, there was full body art. And in the early demo of Touhou 9, there were 5 characters available and you had full body art for them. But every character who was released in the full version with full body art, as you can see here, they had a gradiented, faded character art. But somebody took it upon themselves to properly color this Tei. Yuka as well. Yuka and Tei, as far as I know, are the only two where their full body renders from POFE have been colored by a fan and they look very official. So if you've ever seen this particular Tei in full body with proper coloring, it's not canon. It wasn't done by Zun. It was colored by somebody else. But this particular Tei does exist, but for some reason all these full body renders were just done with like a filter over the top of them to make them the color of player 1 or player 2. But it just so happens that Yuka and Tei specifically have had a fan fully color them for whatever reason. So if you want to talk about when I say like, oh, nobody knew this because of this, but streamer, there's a full body render that exists, it's because that full body render is fan made colored. And honestly, if you're looking at Tei here and you notice that she's wearing socks, that's your problem. Because when you think about it, every single aspect of Tei from POFV is what you see from Tei in future. But except for the feet, that's it. The feet are the only difference. And the only part of that is actually similar to IN is the fact that she was barefoot. Maybe it's a coincidence. Who knows? But I did think that was interesting. The carrot necklace, the wavy hair, everything about Tei that you see comes from this portrait, except for the feet, which seemingly come from IN based on the fact that one is barefoot and one is not. It's also possible that they just didn't like sock shoes and they just decided to make her barefoot anyway. Who knows?
Grayson's boss attack sprite in POFV is just her imperishable knight sprite recolored, trying to make the blazer look like her shirt by painting it white. Grayson's alt costume just straight up uses the imperishable knight sprite, with no edits at all. Aiden's butterfly...
Sorry. So yeah, those last two ones were straight from the inconsistency video, where I noticed that.
Costume just straight up uses the imperishable knight sprite.
That shit is mad funny, by the way. So... yeah, Raisin her blazer is taken away from her, and then the boss sprite just is this, but colored white. It looks really ugly. And her B sprite, her B outfit color, which gives her a dark purple shirt, it just uses the imperishable knight sprite. No changes. It just straight up reuses the sprite with no change. He didn't, he made this gross fucking, obviously. And the crazy part to me is, if you look at it, it really just... the blazer really just looks filled in, It's such like look at the border on it. It looks so out of place. It looks like it was an asset slapped onto her. Because if you look at the border on the white blazer compared to the border on literally every other part of her. They all have a faint pink glow, right? And then you look at the border on the blazer and it's like those are thin black lines. Why are they thin black lines? Because they're from the previous they're from the previous sprite. They're colored in, but the lines aren't actually designed with that in mind. So it looks really weird. Also, the tie looks really weird too. Why is it like deep red there for some reason? What the fuck is going on there? Anyway, yeah, I thought that was really funny because it's just such a like even her shoes are recolored. Why the fuck are her shoes? What the hell? Wait a minute, chat. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Look at the shoes. Do you see that? Do you see that? The black on the shoes is the same color as the blazer, which I think that means that because they're the same color, when he recolored the black, it also changed the bottom of the shoes with the way he recolored it. What the? What? Because there's no way he manually painted over that, right? So he literally just hue shifted, and it also affected the bottom of her shoes, which it shouldn't do at all because you can't. That doesn't matter. So he. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, son. Oh, you silly boy. I never noticed that in the shoes, dude. I was like, why the fuck are the shoes pink? And now it makes sense.
Look like her shirt by painting it white.
Oh.
Grayson's alt costume just straight up uses the imperishable night sprite.
Oh
no edits at
my
all.
god. Yeah, so that was I found that in the inconsistency video. It was too good to not mention here. That's really funny. I didn't even notice that about the shoes. I just learned something new.
Eden's butterfly dream pills
This
are
one's
said
cool.
to give the user pleasant dreams.
Okay, that's a huge lot of text, but basically this is just the interview. This from Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red, where Aya interviews Eden about the dream pill, and she mentions what the dream pill does and whatnot. But the reason for this is because Aya mentions that she tries it, and she only kind of sees, like, she doesn't see anything interesting.
She also sells a nightmare version. The effects of the regular pill have only been described by Aya, but we can see what the nightmare pill could look like in scene 9-3 in Shoot the Bullet, of which Eden recommended Aya try at the end of her interview.
So yeah, so specifically with this one, so this is 9-3 in Shoot the Bullet, and it's the butterfly dream pill nightmare type. And like I said, in the article specifically, Eden recommends that Aya try the nightmare version because she wasn't satisfied with the normal dream version because she only saw butterflies. So it's very possible that this scene is a direct cause of that, where she actually does try it and then it results in this scene. So this is the only known instance of what the nightmare type could look like. It's basically just an attack. Now, granted, it's also possible that what Aya sees here is only because of Aya, because we know that Alice is a repeat customer of the dream one, and we don't know what she wants to dream about exactly. But point is, despite the nightmare type only really being offhandedly mentioned a couple times, compared to the good dream pill, we actually get to see a spell card based on the nightmare type, which kind of makes both of them a little more equal in visibility. They both have some impact in that regard. But the dream pills in general aren't very talked about or well known, but the nightmare one even less so. So I thought that was really cool. Next one I really like. I'll let that one play. I take this Dorinki.
The A and Tay crew consists of 4 characters: Tay, Reisen, Eden, and Kaguya. Despite this, Kaguya has never interacted with Tay in any unquestionably canon work.
Do you like that emphasis on unquestionably? So, I was struggling for hours to find something interesting to talk about for Kaguya. And as I was looking, I realized something very important. Despite the A and Tay group consisting of 4 characters, Kaguya has never interacted with Tay. Ever. Never. Kaguya only ever talks to Eden, and then offhandedly remarks most of the time to Reisen. Doesn't really talk directly to her very often. But we have never seen Kaguya and Tay ever talk. We've seen Eden talk with Tay. We've seen Reisen talk with Tay. We have never seen Kaguya and Tay interact outside of Inaba the Moon, Inaba the Earth. That's why I said unquestionably canon work. But when I found that out, I was like, wait, that's actually very interesting. Despite them, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. No, I looked at every possible source. Tei and Kaguya do not interact. And I even looked into the fact that, as you know, Tei approached A and Tei when they were hiding and offered them safety in exchange for their knowledge. But that meeting was done by Eren alone. So when Tei reached a proposal with the Lunarians, that was all Eren. So Tei only interacted with Eren setting up that proposal. So there was no interaction with Kaguya there at all. So even in dialogue that happened off screen, there's still no actual confirmation that Kaguya and Tei have ever interacted at all, despite, them living in the same place. So I thought that was really neat, because I really couldn't find anything interesting to talk about for Kaguya at all. I couldn't find anything. Couldn't find anything at all. And the thing is, we know for sure that Kaguya has interacted with Reisen, because we know that Reisen's last name that she goes by, Inaba, is a name given to her by Kaguya. Kaguya refers to all the rabbits as Inaba. Granted, Tei is also Tei Inaba, so maybe there's that. But Kaguya has in some capacity talked to Reisen. I don't remember if she has directly talked to her. I think she has. But yeah, Tei and Kaguya don't interact, despite being part of the A and Tei crew. So you'll see in like what you're watching right here, when the four of them interact, they're always, they're part of a group. Like in Fantasy Maiden Wars as well, they are the Touhou 8 group. But yeah, Kaguya and Tei they don't interact. They just don't.
One of Mamizou's spell cards in the fighters transforms her opponent. Moko seems to transform into some type of fire rat, possibly in reference to one of Kaguya's treasures,
speculation,
the fire rat's robe.
Purely on my part.
Moko and Mamizou have a special intro where...
Yeah. So, yeah, the special intro here, where you can see that Moko is in her animal form, and the only way that happens is if Mamizou causes it, right? So I think this was neat specifically because this is the only instance where you see this form outside of Mamizou's attack, but it's on Mamizou, which means Mamizou is probably the one that caused it.
Transform Moko has set Mamizou's tail on fire, meaning prior to the fight, Mamizou pulled a little prank that quite literally got her ass cooked for.
I gotta say, I really like this Moko sprite right here, where she's like, she just lit Mamizou's ass on fire, and then she jumps out of her, and she's snickering like that. Like, look at her. That's not a very Moko expression, but it's very good. I think that's a very good expression. Oh, man. That's such a good expression.
Aya's wings appear in numerous instances in written works, most notably in her debut work, Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red.
So here's a little fun fact not mentioned here. Did you know that Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red released in like 5 days before Touhou 9 did? I didn't know that. So I could have used that as a factoid. But yeah, Aya is regarded as, she's a written work character debut in her book, but then like less than a week she was in Touhou 9 as a playable character and boss, and then she was in Touhou 10 as well, and so on and so forth. But yeah, this book released within a week of Touhou 9's full version, so Aya was technically, not even technically, Aya was straight up a written work character debuted, but then she debuted so close to a game anyway that people just kind of put her in with Touhou 9 more than anything else.
But these wings are absent in every game appearance Aya has ever made to this day.
And this is really weird because, yes, if you'll notice, Aya never appears with wings in games, ever. But she'll appear with wings in many different spin-off works that are still canon, and nobody really knows why. Another interesting bit is the fact that she has a little crow partner that is with her in the fighting games, and also there in Shoot the Bullet / Touhou 9, but she kind of gets rid of them. She does actually have a spell card in the fighting games where she summons a whole murder of them, and they attack, which is cool. But otherwise, the little familiar that she has is not a very common aspect of the character.
Medicine is often shown with her little doll pal, but there are a couple instances where it's missing. Her back sprite, this cameo in Wild Hermit.
Okay. Look at how zoomed in I am on that with her eating the cotton candy. But I actually did. I looked at every known listed cameo for medicine for this one.
And most notably, her POFE ending.
And this actually applies for both pictures in the ending. This is just one picture, but Medicine's complete appearance in the ending does not feature the little doll with her, which I thought was really neat because that doll is a big part of her identity, but then in this ending, it's not present at all.
There have only been 3 instances since Yuka's return to Windows where she has appeared in canon without her parasol.
Now, here's the fun one about this. Again, I looked at every cameo that Yuka has made, and these are the only 3 where Yuka is without her parasol. There's this Visionaries panel where she's very zoomed out. There's the Silent Center in Blue panel where this is the big panel from Chapter 9 where they're all in Remy's party. And then Forbidden Scrollery Chapter 6 where it's almost not even clear that is Yuka back there. But I think you can tell it's Yuka because you can see some flannel design on her side there. And these are the only 3 appearances Yuka has ever made since her Windows appearance where you cannot see an umbrella. These are the only ones. If you look at all her other cameos... Wait, why the fuck does her arm disappear behind Aya like that? Wait, why does Aya just have a white border around her to begin with? It's kind of weird. I didn't notice that. But yeah, Yuka's... All the other appearances, like Symposium... Or, not Symposium. Perfect Mento and Strict Sense... even Whispered Oracle as well. Strange Creators, they all feature her parasol. It's very iconic. And these are the only instances of her Windows appearances where that parasol is not present. That's very neat.
Komachi's POFE homage.
Ooh, okay. Listen to this one. This one's really cool. This one's actually really cool. I'm really proud of this one. Listen to this one.
Okay, states that she demands spirits to pay with all they have, and those that hesitate to do so are thrown into the river midway. Perfect Memento in Strict Sense assumes that if your assets dip into the negative, you'll never reach the other side, and likely end up tossed in the river. Eiki's pre-battle dialogue with Komachi does have Komachi slip about how bad guys often have interesting life stories, so it's actually believable that she would ferry them to a certain extent before tossing them overboard, instead of just refusing to ferry to begin with.
So I really liked that one, because when I was looking through information, I found in her omake and with Aku's article about how Shinigami, they'll toss you overboard, and I used that as evidence that it happens. But specifically in that Eiki conversation where Komachi lets it slip about bad guys having interesting stories, I was like, oh, okay. So it doesn't refute the idea that she does in fact throw them overboard, but it solidifies, to me anyway, the idea that she will willingly take on any soul, good or bad, because the bad people, the people who aren't going to make it across the river, are interesting to talk to, and they help her kill time, and she finds them very interesting to listen to. And then when they run out of things to talk about, and they're obviously not getting to the other side, she just chucks them overboard because they can't actually afford to pay. And that's why part of her workload is so poor, because not only is she slacking in the sense that she's not doing her job, she is doing her job for the wrong people, so her job is never actually getting completed. And I was like, that's actually really neat to the character's personality as a whole. And it kind of opened up a whole new, not a whole new, but like a newish belief to the character for me. Like, oh yeah, okay, I can imagine Komachi going out of her way to not fulfill her duties, but kind of fulfill them, in the sense that she's ferrying across the river, but she'll ferry anyone as long as they're interesting, and then if they can't pay halfway through, she'll be like, well, all right, goodbye, and then she'll just toss them, just because, that's the kind of character she is. And it was like, all that information together, I thought was really cool, and I wanted to include it all together. Because, like I said, in the omake and in Aku's opinion, Komachi, will just toss you into the river. But the idea to me that, why would she put you on the boat if she knew you couldn't pay to begin with? Or, if you can't pay, you don't get on, you get thrown in the river, right? Why would she do that? But the fact that she says that bad guys have interesting life stories makes it completely believable that she would in fact have a reason to throw people overboard midway into the journey because they just don't have enough money, because she takes on anybody and hopes of an interesting story, and she gets that. And if you can't pay at that point, she's like, all right, well, goodbye. But if you can pay, then it's like, all right, she's doing her job. So I thought all that information together made perfect sense for her character. There's a difference between bad and can't pay. No, there's not. Because the currency that you use to pass the river is the currency that is given to you by the people that miss you when you're gone. So people who are greedy and bad and don't have people that miss them do not have currency to actually pay the ferryman. That's how it works. So none of your physical assets go to you at the afterlife. It's about people who will miss you, like your good deeds, stuff like that. So bad guys are people who, they're greedy people, bad people. They don't really have like actual relationships with people. So then they don't have any money when they transfer over, kind of deal. Bad is kind of a blanket term that she's using here, but she's said that people like that have interesting life stories, because people who are good people, and they're not that interesting. But people who do bad things are interesting because it's exciting. It's like an action movie. And what is Eiki judging? I don't know, dude. Don't ask me. You got a point there. I'll give you that. But the fact of the matter is that the fare that you pay to cross the river is given to you by the what you do in life, and then the width of the river is also based on that. And also, I don't know, man. Do I look like a fucking Shinigami to you? You think? You think I can describe this? I can't describe this to you. I'm not a short, not so short, green-haired little girl who fucking slaps you and sends you to hell. I don't know. Why don't you be a true crime fanatic, huh? Yes, she is female. What did you expect?
Eiki's AI works similarly to Yumemi, in that she won't take intentional hits in the first round. Though I don't know how it works when a continue has
This
been
one's
used,
cool.
and this doesn't apply on easy mode. Interestingly, Eiki slightly differs in that if you enter her stage with 0 lives remaining, she can take intentional hits in the first round, but not until nearly 5 minutes have passed.
So here's something really interesting I noticed after the fact. So this is the normal sheet. As you can see, all the information's here. The stage number, the round, 0 is when entering with no lives remaining, and 1 to 60 is a CPU level. So as you see up top, the digit is indicative of what you're getting, right? So when the number is in one digit between, I guess 1 to 9, it's 1 minute timer. But when it gets up here to 59, it's at 450, and at 60, it's none. For Eiki, round 1 starts at 60, and with each round you lose, it goes down to 45, 40, 30, and then on round 5, it goes down to 8. So on your 5th life, Eiki will take a hit at a minute in. But if you enter the stage with 0 lives, if you wait 4 minutes and 50 seconds, Eiki will be able to take intentional hits. Now here's the weird part that I noticed. Komachi stage, where in stage 8, you have to wait 3.5 minutes in the first round. But if you die, you 25, 20, 15, and then round 5 jumps up to 60. So if you lose 4 times in a row on stage 8, the game's like, well, I guess you're fucking dead, asshole. And it prevents the AI from taking intentional hits. And the weirdest part is that all of them do it on round 5 except Eiki. Every single one of them have not all of them, but they all have jumps, an increased timer when you've used 5 lives. Why? Why though? Like, look at that. It's like 12, 15, 11, 9, 38. Why? Why does that happen? Because the thing is, you can start with a maximum of 5 lives, right? So if you start with a maximum of 5 lives and you lose 5 lives, it means that you're going to 0 lives, which means the 0 life marker will it should overtake the round 5 marker, right? So that means that if you end up in a situation against Komachi here where you enter round 5, theoretically it should be your last life, so it should go to 32, which means it should be 2 minutes and 40 seconds, right? But if you gain an extra life and you had 6 and then you lost 5, you'd be forced to lose that extra life unless you're playing a character who can cheese the AI, right? I'm assuming that's how that works. So the 0 number should always overtake any of the round numbers based on the fact that it's supposed to have when you have 0 lives remaining. But you can only enter round 5 with more than 0 lives remaining if you started, well, not if you started, but if you gained enough extra lives to push yourself over 5, right? But that's so weird. That's really weird. And I'm pretty sure Lunatic Mode, the chart also just has like every character tell you to go fuck yourself at some point in the rounds. But it's just weird because notably with Eiki, it's the exact opposite, right? In Eiki's case, it goes from you can't win to like the same timer that stage 1 has. Like it's like not high at all. It's not even high. It's not high at all. But then the 0 overtakes it, and it puts it at the second highest variable, the highest before it can be just invincible. So I don't really get how it works. You'd have to ask somebody who knows how this works. But this shit is very interesting. And I'll tell you one thing: the original fact I was going to use for Eiki was that not counting endings, Eiki is the first character in Windows drawn by Zun where you can actually see her ear. Not counting endings. All the other characters, you can't see their ears. Eiki's the first one you can see see her ear. Not counting endings. I understood all of that. Was I not clear? I thought I did a pretty good job explaining that. So basically, round one for Eiki is made so she will never take a hit intentionally. And if you lose that round, the timer goes down to 45, which means in 3 minutes and 20 seconds, Eiki will take an intentional hit. And then I don't know how it goes from there. But I guess you can think of it as invincibility period. Because the AI, unless you put them in a position where you exploit their AI or you completely and utterly trap them, they will not take damage. And each time you lose, the leniency gets better, so you don't have to wait as long. Until the 5th round, where you only have to wait a minute for her to get hit. But because you're probably going to have 0 lives by the 5th round, you're getting the 59 number, which means Eiki will not be able to take any damage until 4 minutes and 50 seconds pass. And I think really the 0 lives is supposed to take into account the idea that you're entering the stage on 0 lives. Because if you were on 1 CC pace and you had 1 life left and then you died, you had to play an impossible round, you would lose the 1 CC. So it's kind of like an emergency situation for that. Even though 1 CCs don't matter for the ending, this is something that prevents a pretty much guaranteed game over, I would assume. But I don't really know either. But I thought it was very interesting, so I had to include it. All right, go move it on.
Out of the golden era.
Look at that golden Yukarine statue, because I was talking about the golden era. Isn't that cool?
Are you still with me? Take a moment to recollect, and let's continue. Aku's debut appearance was Aku's Untouched Score Volume 1, released about 7 months prior to Perfect Memento in strict sense. She's mainly categorized with the written word characters, but technically she is the same as Renko and Maribel.
Isn't that really neat? So I mentioned earlier that Aya is regarded as like a game character with Touhou 9, even though her book debuted before it. So she's actually a written work debut character. But Aku here debuted over half a year before her book as the Aku's Untouched Score, which means she's a music collection character like Maribel and Renko, but she's not classified as Maribel and Renko. She's classified as a written work character. Despite that, I thought that was really neat. I never really thought much about that myself. I always just kind of thought of Perfect Memento, strict sense was Aku's book, and then Zun's music collection came after that. But no, Aku was created for Zun's music collection, and that was over half a year before she actually had a book detailing anything in general. Now, it's possible that she was actually existed before that, and that information is lost to time or something. But as far as I can tell, Aku's first appearance was, in fact, the I forgot what it's called, the Untouched Score that she debuted from, which would make her categorizable as a music collection character.
Reisen falls out of the sky wearing the exact same outfit as the Earth Rabbit.
I hate this little fucker. You know why? Because this shit confused me to no end. Alright? I talked about this before. I really looked into it. This is my findings.
As somehow she had heard on the moon that Earth Rabbits dress like that. You can see other moon rabbits in Chapter 7.
By the way, this panel set right here is the weirdest fucking thing to me. Look at all these moon rabbits that exist on the moon. That is baffling. They're just wearing like modern clothes. They're just wearing modern clothing. It's so weird. It's just, and these are the only panels you see this.
Albeit for 3 panels, all wearing casual clothes. And Reisen is now in Lunar Defense Corps uniform, before she is drafted into the corps by the Watatskis. So on top of where she got Earth Rabbit clothes, where did she get the blazer and skirt?
So this is the part that really confuses me. So she heard that the Earth Rabbits dress like that on the moon somehow, so she managed to dress like that and come down from the moon. Okay, but now here she is in Chapter 7, on her way to the Watatsuki Palace, before she's met either of them, and she's dressed in the blazer and skirt, which is Lunar Corps uniform, because all the other rabbits are wearing that too. So where the fuck did she get that? Did she take it from Reisen? Did Eren give it to her before she sent her back? Where did she get this outfit? And all the other moon rabbits are wearing normal clothing, so why is she wearing a blazer? I don't understand why that is. I really don't. I was very confused. So there was another fact I thought about using for the character. So if you're wondering, Reisen has light blue hair here, right? So there's actually a cover. One of the covers in color for Silent Center in Blue features Marisa's attack that she used on Yorihime, where she fires her stars. And you can see that there's a moon rabbit with light blue hair getting hit in the ass by one of those stars. And in Runagate, specifically the Reisen chapter, Reisen mentions that she was struck by one of those specific stars from Marisa's attack. And that's kind of where 2 and 2 got put together. And that's why people were like, oh, okay, so Reisen has blue hair, because the rabbit in question who got hit by the attack on the cover has this hair, and according to Reisen from Runagate, she was hit by this specific attack during this part of the story. So that's probably most likely why Reisen's hair color is what we know it as today.
Yorihime's character sketch doesn't feature a sword, but does show a purple notebook.
This one's weird.
This notebook can be seen on Yorihime a few times throughout Mugetsu show. Zun's comment on Yorihime in Who's Who states that this notebook is actually a computer in the shape of an old book.
So yeah, that little book that she carries, like, and does nothing with it all, but it's so important that the character sketch has it, but not her sword, is actually a computer. It's a computer in the shape of an old book. And this book is not a one-off thing. She actually does have it a couple times throughout the course of Mugetsu show, as you saw in some examples. That's really weird.
Much like her sister, Toyohime's character sketch doesn't feature her signature weapon. According to Zun, it being a fan was Aki Ada's idea, as Zun didn't explain the weapons to them.
And you know what I find funny about this? So I've said before, but to me, Toyohime is basically like Yukari and Yuko, but if she wasn't interesting at all. And the fact that the person who made this weapon for the character, because they weren't given any details, they were like, oh, she definitely uses a fan. You know who uses a fan? Yukari and Yuko. And so that only adds to my belief that people just saw this character as Yuko or Yukari, but not interesting. Like, because their first thought for which weapon she would definitely use is exactly the kind of thing that those two are using. Keep in mind, the only other characters who existed were of that archetype were essentially just Eren. And Eren did not have a fan, that's for sure. So, yeah, that's why I believe that Toyohime is just Yuko and Yukari if she was a bad character.
If you delay shooting down Shizuha's first non, you can effectively play the rest of the stage with Shizuha as a special guest.
So I actually found this one from the timing video. That video was, I put a lot of work into that one, but I timed every stage. All of them. With not killing mid-bosses and killing mid-bosses. And I found out in Mountain of Faith, if you Shizuha has 2 nons, and if you time down the first one, she leaves. But if you time it down and then shoot it down, the second non will give it a full timer, and then at a certain point, the game will be like, all right, that's enough of this, and they'll start moving the stage along, and so you'll have to continue fighting Shizuha, but the rest of the stage will then play out while she's still here. But then you can also take her well beyond the end of the stage and make the stage go for longer than it needs to. And this is a very rare instance in the game where this happens. Right here. It's very rare. This doesn't happen like at all aside from her and one other character. But yeah, the stage will basically resume while you're fighting Shizuha if you take longer than Zun is kind of expecting you to, which is very funny. Now, the thing is, I had another fact I was going to use for Shizuha. You know what it was? It was that nobody actually draws her dress patterns. And then I found out that that's not true, so I couldn't use that. People do draw that. But then what I found out was that the leaves in her hair are on the wrong side of her head in Hopeless Masquerade. And I was like, that is so fucking boring. So then I ended up using this. And I kind of like this because, as I'm sure you've noticed, the different like factoids that I've gotten, the trivia, they kind of come from different origins. Like some of them come from Zun works, some of them come from like Akyu, some of them come from just like the different written work, some of them come straight from game mechanics. Like so even like this one for example is straight up just like from a game mechanic, right, related to the character. So there's a bunch of different avenues that I kind of got to poke into for my trivia. It wasn't just all from the written work side. I got to actually like look at the games, and I also got to look at some fandom related stuff, like with Lunasa, where I got to talk about how her popularity in popularity polls was always higher than her sisters, ever since their debut all the way to now. This is like 20 years of popularity polls.
Minariko smells like sweet potatoes. She tells Reimu that freshly harvested sweet potatoes make up her perfume. The purple aura that surrounds Hina in-game is the misfortune she's gathered. This aura actually moves around during her attacks, and the majority of her Danmaku comes from it, and not Hina directly.
This one's really cool because I never noticed this, but you can actually see it here. But Hina is surrounded by the misfortune that she attracts, which is the purple stuff, right? And it's not all of her Danmaku, but a grand majority of her Danmaku, the origin point of its spawn is actually from the purple clouds that surround her. And you see that she expels it like this. So the bullets are now spawning from away from her. They're spawning from the misfortune. I never noticed that. I thought that was really neat. So Hina can spawn Danmaku, but the Danmaku, she can kind of like... She's one of those characters who kind of... like some characters have slave types where they have like things that they shoot that can fire Danmaku for them. Hina's isn't really a slave type because it's misfortune, but she can essentially throw misfortune and fire bullets from a direction that's not like tied to her. Which I think if you did that in different ways, you could have her be a very creative and unique type of boss, right? Where if she flings her misfortune around, but she can fire it from that direction. But I think what it is that if she fires misfortune away, it kind of boomerangs back to her, or it just kind of dissipates. But I don't think it dissipates, because if she could just remove the misfortune surrounding her, I feel like she would do that. So she could probably only temporarily move it, which would make her power even stronger, I think, anyway. So yeah, I thought this one was really cool because I feel like there's a lot of applications you could do with it. But Hina, for the most part, is just... She's not really known for controlling misfortune and firing bullets from it. She's known from spinning in 360-degree angles at max speed. Our max speed.
Nitori is a bit infamous for having undergone a personality change come Hopeless Masquerade.
Yeah.
According to an interview with Zun and Unabara Iruka and Strange Creators, it was a pretty deliberate decision from Zun to make her like this. Iruka even comments, "Wow, she's nasty."
So that comment is in the previous bit of this interview specifically. But yeah, according to this interview, Zun always intended for Nitori to be like this. And this is also regarded as one of the most controversial personality changes of a character the series has ever seen. So it's kind of interesting that this was Zun's intention from the start. So, yeah. There are a couple other ones I debated for this character. The first one I was going to go with was the fact that her backpack actually does have a lock on it with so there's something for the key. I think I was going to mention one where a character actually comments on the key attached to her. And the third one I was debating was the idea that she's bald under the cap, but there was a Lotus Eaters chapter that was very recent at the time I was writing where you can see Nitori without her hat. The only time Nitori has ever been seen without her hat in canon was that the end of that chapter. But ultimately I went with this because I was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. The fact that one of the most, like, I can't believe this is this character was 100% Zun being like, yes, this was the plan from the start. This is the plan.
Hamino Momiji's non doesn't clear the screen of her bullets. She also shares the same enemy intrusion deal as Shizuha.
So this one's actually very unique. So I mentioned there, she does the same thing as Shizuha does. I also found this in the timeout video. But Momiji is a really weird, unique case where when she times out, she doesn't, like, the screen doesn't explode. She just leaves. But all of her bullets are still there. And the stage starts resuming in the last couple seconds. So now you have to dodge all of this part of the stage while Momiji's shit is still, like, coming towards you. It's really neat, though, because no other mid-boss does this, right? Shizuha and Momiji share the fact that the stage continues with them after a certain point. The other ones don't. Like, the other ones don't do that. Whereas, but Momiji's case, when Momiji times out, she doesn't, like, the spell card, quote unquote, doesn't, like, dispel. She just leaves her bullets and fucks off. She just gets bored. But you still have to dodge all her shit. And again, she's, like, the only one who does this. Now, I actually have another really interesting example of something like this. I guess I'll explain it now because I'm not using it later. But, if you didn't know, in the extra stage, you always fight a mid-boss, right? So first of all, Kaneko has like 4 spell cards. Or not spell cards, but every mid-boss in the extra stage has 3 spell cards. But for some reason in Mountain of Faith, Kaneko has a non and then 3 spell cards. She has 4 patterns, giving her the most patterns of any extra mid-boss in the series. Because it's, instead of just 3, she has 3 spell cards and a non. But when you time out a mid-spell in the extra stage, you get a lot of time for them, by the way. You get like a full minute. And when you time them out, they always go to the next spell card. But there's one exception to that, and that is Touhou 13 with Nue. Again, I found this in the timeout video as well. If you time out any of Nue's spell cards, the entire extra mid-boss ends. Any of them. So if you time down Nue spell 1 in the extra stage, she'll just leave. You don't have to do the other 2 spell cards. She will actually leave. She'll go away. And she'll do that for the second one as well. And obviously she does it for the third one. But every other extra mid-boss, when you time them out, they just automatically go to the next spell card. You're not allowed to skip them in the extra stage, but Nue is the only exception to that. You time her out, she's gone. She gets bored. Doesn't mean you turn to a crow, she leaves the screen. No, she doesn't.
Non doesn't clear the screen of her bullets.
Look at her.
She also shares the same enemy
She's up there. She doesn't turn into a crow. You just can't really see her. She just kind of fucking goes backwards. She just leaves. But she's very heavily obscured. It's for capturing, not timeout. Oh, you mean when you... Wait, really? When you blow up Momiji to turn into a crow? Does she really? I've never noticed that. I'd have to see... I'd have to see that. I didn't know that. Is that true? Does she actually turn into a crow when you blow her up? I've never fucking noticed that then, ever. There's a vid about it? What? Okay, first I'm hearing. Bro, I should have used that. I had no idea she did that.
As Shizuha. And Sanae's legacy of...
Ooh, this one's a little bit of this one's pretty cool, actually. Let this one talk. Let me just repeat what I say. This is Sanae's legacy hit run ending right here. This is important. Pay attention.
Lunatic Kingdom legacy ending, Suwako mentions that the ultramarine orb elixir side effect would have rendered Sanae a clean human. The ending seems to suggest that this means Sanae would have ceased to be a half-god if she took the elixir. Kaneko's Shiminawa represents the figure of an entwined snake. Suwako's omake mentions that part of the reason she wears this so much is it serves as a casual reminder that she won against Suwako.
Now, what's interesting about this one is that this isn't Suwako's omake. This isn't Kaneko's omake. This is Suwako's omake. It explains why Kaneko wears the Shiminawa all the time. And the second reason is because she's kind of an asshole. Wanted to casually stress the fact that she won against Suwako. That's why she wears it all the time. But yeah, Sanai's ending will actually... I'll get to explain that a little more later. But yeah, essentially what they're saying is that the Orb of Ultramarine... The Ultramarine Elixir, if Sanai had drank it, would have removed her deity status and turned her into a regular human. So because of that, it's pretty clear that that ending can't be possible, because then Sanai would stop being a god. And also Kaneko mentions when they're talking about it that if either of them had drank the elixir, it would have been quote-unquote an instant kill. So they would have died instantly from it. So the elixir itself, most people tend to agree that, from what I've found, is that the canon ending for Lunatic Kingdom is a legacy no-hit. Because a legacy no-hit ending is the same as a point device ending because you're effectively not getting hit. But all of the legacy hit endings make it kind of clear that Eren's elixir is very shady and that no one wanted to take it because they didn't trust it. Even Reisen herself. And it's very clear in Sanai's ending that if Sanai had taken it, she would have been a full human. So... Granted, the way canonicity of endings works in the series is kind of weird to begin with, but that bit in particular for Sanai, I think, is very damning about the point device's authenticity as like, I don't think anybody... I think the events of Law K happened, obviously, but I don't think anyone actually took Eden's elixir, just based on the shit that gets said about it in the legacy hit endings.
The iron rings that Suwako uses are actually hula hoops. At least, that's what Suwako told Marisa in her grimoire.
That's great. When I asked her what the iron rings actually are, though, she said they're hula hoops. Dang, that's native gods for ya. Suwako got hula hoop, the iron rings, which are also, like, really sharp.
Iku's sprite and double spoiler is lacking her Hagoromo. I guess Zun realized how much of a pain in the ass it was to draw, though he has at least drawn it once before.
Yeah, so I don't actually know what this character sketch is. I assume it's a character sketch specifically for SWR, but this is a screenshot of just Zun Iku, and you can see the Hagoromo. But yeah, the sprite and double spoiler does not have the Hagoromo at all. So I thought this was neat. It's clearly drawn by Zun, but I don't know the context to it. I assume it's photography of concept art for SWR though, because why else would it exist, right?
In Tenshi's scenario and Antinomy of Common Flowers, Mamizou remarks that Tenshi is quite short. Her being on a keystone already makes this clear, but height acknowledgement in universe is rather rare in this series. Asume's spell card art is a much different resolution than every other character in the game. She kind of looks like she's made of felt paper.
So this is one that everybody probably already knows. The fact that the quality on Kasume's art is extremely dubious. Look at her fucking hand, by the way. Look at the hand on closest to the gameplay. That's not a hand. That's a mess. But it looks like a completely different texture, and it's so weird that it looks like that. It's just so weird.
Yamame appeared on this Subterranean Animism demo CD upside down.
Or did she? Or did she? No, she did. Okay. She did. Those characters are upright, you see? The Touhou character is upright, so Yamame is upside down. The other text is upside down. Don't worry about that. So that is correct. That is correct. She is upside down.
Something she didn't end up doing in-game. She did appear almost upside down in her Symposium of Post-Mysticism art, properly upside down in her Hopeless Masquerade cameo.
Okay, let me tell you something, chat. When I was looking at this, and the wiki told me that Yamame appeared in Hopeless Masquerade, I was like, where the fuck are you looking that you see Yamame? She has to be in this stage, right? She has to be. So where is she? So I moved both the characters all the fuck away, and then there she is. Maximum zoom out behind the health bar. And And I was just like, what are you doing up there? Like, but she is there. She is there. She is hanging out at the very top of the screen, and you can barely see her, and you can only barely see her when you're like max distance from each other. It was great.
And upside down in a few attacks from Goyoku Ibun. Mention of Parsi's jealousy is only present in 4 of the 6 shot types, 2 of which are explained by your shot type, and only in Reimu and Aya's out is it in context of Parsi being jealous of the protagonist.
Yeah, so specifically with this one, so 2 shot types, Parsi doesn't mention anything about jealousy, and 2 shot types, I believe it's Nitori and I believe it's Yukari, or I don't remember if it's Yukari or Sika, but they basically tell the main character what Parsi is and that she's Hajihime and they're jealous. But only in this specific route with Reimu Aya does Parsi actually mention that she is jealous of the character. Otherwise, her jealousy is kind of explained in a explanatory factor way, but this is her actually expressing that she is jealous of the character. I thought that was pretty neat. Also, I couldn't find much else to talk about with the character, so, you know. There's that too.
Zun's manuscript for Lotus Eaters chapter 35 and 36 don't specify Yuki's outfit, so the choice to put her in her blue kimono was made by Mizutaki, the artist. Not terribly surprising when you consider her last official appearance at the time was Goyoku Ibun. Yeah. Marisa claims that Satori's mind reading only extends to what you're currently thinking.
I like this one.
So she uses terrible souvenir to dig up past trauma, which makes sense when you look at how the fight works. However, both Aya and Hatate's capture comments of vague recollection of Kinkakuji make it clear that it was in fact a vague recollection, meaning to a certain extent, Satori can read older memories without hypnotism. Though to begin with, the original comment was written by Marisa, and never actually confirmed by Satori herself.
So yeah, I like this one because I could kind of delve a bit into it. But according to the Grimoire Marisa, Satori relies on a form of hypnotism to pull out your fears and then use them against you. And in the essay fight, it works like that, where she uses terrible souvenir / terrifying hypnotism. And then after that, in a couple nons, she'll start hitting you with your partner's spell cards, because that's what you're thinking of. But according to vague recollection of Kinkakuji, she's pulling a memory of Kinkakuji from Aya, but she's also pulling it from Hatate. And according to the comments, it's because Hatate had read about it in Aya's paper at some point. But obviously no form of hypnotism was even performed at that point. So it's possible that Satori doesn't actually need hypnotism, or it's the fact that it's a vague recollection means that without proper hypnotism, Satori cannot actually pull on the full strength of the trauma. So her having more accurate spell cards in SA is because she uses her hypnotism spell card, and then she has vague recollection because she doesn't have time to actually perform hypnotism, so she can only get a bit of it out, which is why it's so messy, and also why it's a vague recollection. So I think that was really cool. But also, it's because it's written from the perspective of a character in universe, so there's no guarantee that it's actually completely true. So yeah, I thought that was really cool with the character. And I like the idea that Satori doesn't need hypnotism to make her powers work, but hypnotism is what allows her to get a clear vision of what it is her opponent is fearful of and use it against them. Otherwise, she kind of just has to fill in the blanks a bit herself and make a bit of a mess.
Unlike Chen, Orin seems to lack her tails in human form.
So this one's weird because it was like a kind of like a Mandela effect to me, where I felt like what I was talking about was wrong, and then I looked into it and I was like, well, actually that is true. So when Orin goes human form, her tails are gone, and that was the case for a long time.
The earliest instance where this wasn't true was her famous Hopeless Masquerade dance.
They're there.
4 years later in the Underworld tour
and
ad
they're there.
Alternative Facts in Eastern Utopia. Human form Orin with tails has been more common as of recent. Present in her unfinished Dream of All Living Ghost Sprites, this page in Lotus Eaters.
You know what's crazy about this page in Lotus Eaters? You know why I said this page in Lotus Eaters? Because immediately on the next page, they're gone. Her tails are gone. After this page, you can see them in 2 panels. You can see them in the middle, you can see them on the bottom, right? You see them, and then the next page they're gone, completely gone.
and cheating detective Satori.
So there's a cut here because at first I specified Akimaki Yu because he also draws Orin with her tails in human form. But then I found in this chapter here that the previous artist also drew Orin with tails. So I just cut that out, and it sounded not seamless at all. And I really didn't want to re-record the line, so I just rolled with it. So that's why I wrote applies for both artists. So both of them drew human Orin with her tails present. Even though when SA kind of happened, just she actually didn't have her tails in human form, which is really strange. I never really noticed it before either.
Satori's Grimoire Marisa portrait shows Orin and Oku in their animal forms.
I like this one.
And we can see
Look at that.
legs on Oku.
Look at that. So in their Grimoire Marisa image, you can see them in their forms, but that's obviously Oku, right? But she's got 3 legs because she's the Yatagarasu at this point, right? So she has 3 legs. So she can still go Raven form, and she has 3 legs when she does that. That's really cool.
This means that Oku can still go Raven form, and that big-ass eye brooch thing is invisible when she does. One of Koishi's victory animations is a reference to Terry Bogard, specifically the one where she turns away from the camera and throws her hat. Okay.
So the neat thing about this one is that this seems obvious to most people, but it's actually not recorded on the wiki in any capacity, and I was surprised by that, because she turns away from the camera and tosses her hat, and that is what Terry does. But there's actually no mention of that on the wiki at all. I felt like maybe that would be in the trivia section or something, but no, nobody actually ever mentioned it. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll mention it since it's not on the wiki. I get bonus points. But yeah, I also pulled up a clip and synced it up to be as, as accurate as...
Specifically, the one where she turns away from the camera and throws her hat.
See, look at her. I synced it up. Bang. See? Bang. 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 Bang.
Okay. Nazrin's pre-battle dialogue with Seiden suggests that Nazrin currently lives at Myoden Temple, though it was claimed by Aku in Symposium of Post-Mysticism that Nazrin lives in a cottage out by Muenzuka.
This one speaks for itself.
The temple at Sho's request. Granted, Aku's information is 11 years prior to this conversation. Symposium of Post-Mysticism...
So essentially, the conversation with Seiden and Nazrin seemed to imply that Nazrin lives at the Myoden Temple, despite Aku saying that she lives in a little shack out in Muenzuka and searches for treasure, and only appears at the temple at Sho's request. So, it's entirely possible that her information's outdated, or it could be that Zun forgot his own information. I'm willing to believe it's actually the latter. Anyway, here's Gussie.
Mysticism lists the Hakurei and Moria shrines as main places for Kogasa activity, but the article only talks about the human village and Myoden Temple. Moria Shrine could be explained from her defeat text in Sanae B route, though there's not really anything specific for the Hakurei Shrine, as at the time, Kogasa making Reimu's needles wasn't a thing.
So yeah, what I mentioned there, Kogasa's article in Symposium mentions places of activity being Human Village, Myoden Temple, Moria Shrine, and Hakurei Shrine, and the article only talks about how she hangs out in the Human Village, and people, she was a babysitter, people aren't scared of her, and she moved to the Myoden Temple graveyard to scare people more there, but it doesn't talk about the other 2 shrines. But like I was saying here, Kogasa mentions in a fit of anger that she'll go mess up the Moria Shrine when Sanae beats her, and Sanae, with her big smiley face, says that if you do that, I will kill you. But she doesn't actually talk about the Hakurei Shrine at all with Reimu. And this was written before Wildhorn Hermit, where the chapter happened where Reimu gets her needles repaired by Kogasa, and Reimu basically becomes a regular customer, repairing her needles with Kogasa's blacksmithing. So that information was written prior to that chapter, and I gotta wonder why it was written and why Kogasa is known to frequent the Hakurei Shrine, because she's never been seen there or even mentioned going there prior to this Wildhorn Hermit chapter. I just wonder about that. I thought that was really neat.
Both of Ichiden's wind poses have alternate versions.
So this one really fucked me up because I had no idea this existed. And the quality is pretty low because this is a video that I grabbed off YouTube. But I did not know this, and I was baffled that I didn't know this.
Sometimes the bowl is replaced with a wooden fish that she continuously hits.
Not this.
And the more notable,
this.
Her idle win sometimes takes her Zukin off.
I had no fucking idea that one of her win poses took her fucking headgear off, and we actually get to see what her hair looks like. God, she's beautiful. Look at her. Look at that. God damn. Why is she so pretty? But you only see this, like, sometimes.
Her Zukin off, fully revealing her hair.
That's what her hair looks like. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I had no fucking idea that she had a win pose where she does this. Because she has a version of this win pose where she does the same pose, but she doesn't take the Zukin off. She just does the pose. And then I just happened to see she took it off in this video, and I was like, what the fuck? Well, you can actually see what her hair looks like? I didn't know that. And it looks really good. She's really pretty. God damn it. I knew because I have an emote of this. You lie. You lie. You're a liar.
Hatate's comments on Mirasa's scenes confirm Mirasa's ladle is bottomless, though the only appearance she's made where you can clearly see this is her cameo in Lotus Eaters.
This is actually still true, by the way. I actually looked at all of Mirasa's appearances, and straight up, this is the only appearance Marasa has ever made where you can clearly see through the bottom of the ladle through the outer side. All the other ones are tilted to a point where you cannot see this. So this is the only actual, like, proof that this is true. I could not believe that. I looked at all of her cameos, all of her appearances, and you can see her ladle sometimes, but this is the only time you can see through it like this. I was like, are you serious? That's crazy. But then I got to have some fun with this one with this.
Bonus fact, Hatate theorizes Marasa used anchors due to her ladle being bottomless. And while the next scene confirms her ladle works just fine, she also was shown in Symposium of Post-Mysticism sinking Komachi's boat
up top
with a bucket. So the idea that she uses more than her ladle to sink still holds water.
Oh, funny guy, you so funny. Oh, get it and hold water, cause you know, like her ladle and her bucket. Oh, alright, okay, alright, this one's neat.
Show appears in the opening of Hopeless Masquerade when it mentions the religious factions making their move. Miko, Futo, Reimu, and Byakuren are all visible and playable, though in Shou's case, she's only a cameo. And Ichiden, who's missing here, is playable instead.
So, I thought this was really neat because I never paid attention to it. But yes, you can see Byakuren, Shou, Reimu, Miko, and Futo all there. And if you want to try and tell me that that thing next to Reimu is Unzan, first of all, it's not. But even if you want to try and tell me that, that's not Ichiden. Ichiden is not present on this board at all. They went out of their way to put Shou there, and then when you play the game, it's not Shou. All the other characters are playable fighters, and then for some reason Shou is shafted, and then Ichiden is there instead. So I don't really know why that is. I thought that was kind of weird, because it's clear that this is supposed to be showing the religious leaders and their right hands, right? Byakuren and Shou is the faith of that's the faith of Buddhism in the series. Obviously, Miko and Futo are Taoism, and then Reimu is Shinto, and I guess so would Snai, but you know she's not here, and she's also not working with Reimu. But whatever. Point is, Shou is right up there, clearly pictured, like very clearly pictured. And then when you boot into the game and you select your characters, you can see 4 of these 5 characters, and Shou is like literally nowhere in the game. So it's really weird that they did that. You know, like why did they do that? I feel like they should have included Ichiden in some capacity here if they were going to go that route. Maybe it's just like a coincidence, but I do think it's very strange that they, like, that Shou is part of that and is important to that, but then she's not in the game at all. So yeah, I thought that was really neat. Now there was actually another thing I was going to use specifically for Shou. So Shou is like a heavy drinker, and it's because I think it's in her music comment. I can't remember exactly what the source of the information was. Was that the music comment or an interview or something? But there's a saying in Japan regarding how like drinking, like being able to drink a lot means like you're a tiger. Something like that. Again, it's been months. I don't remember the exact idiom, but yeah, there's this idea of that where, like, you know, heavy drinking equals tiger or something like that. So there's a popular little popular thing to talk about with Show, the idea that she was a heavy drinker because she's a tiger. And yeah, so I'm not doing a very good job explaining that because I don't remember the details, but that was the first thing I was going to use for her until I saw this opening. I thought it was very strange that she was present here and then not present in the game in any other capacity.
Byakuren's air scroll is a magical item she made while in Makai that contains the sutras required for her to activate her superhuman abilities. Symposium of Post-Mysticism notes that this thing apparently has an auto-chant mode by waving it over your head, which explains why Byakuren is able to do all she does during the UFO fight.
So, I thought this one was funny, and it was just kind of ripped from Akyu, but yeah, if you put the scroll over your head, it just works. So actually, that reminded me, there was another Ichiden one I was going to use. So Ichiden has a pose in the fighting games where Unzan creates a fake air scroll over her head, like Byakuren, and it's actually very accurate of the characters to Byakuren's air scroll. It's very cool, very well made. But I went with the Zukin one because I didn't know that one. I thought it was very interesting. You can see her hair. But yeah, Byakuren, if she puts the scroll over her head, it just works. And as you see in UFO, her pose, and also the pose that she strikes the entire boss fight, the scroll is just above her head the whole time. So she can just do all this while that's happening. And it makes the fight make sense, where how she's getting her abilities if the scroll is just above her head the whole time. It's automatically working, which is really stupid. But again, it makes sense in a weird way.
According to Zun in a Strange Creators interview, Nue being either a Nue or a little gray type of alien was a last-minute decision, stating that if she was an alien, she would have overlapped with the lunar capital, which would result in Zun having to develop what space was like, which he thought would be a mess. It does beg the question, though. If Nue did end up as an actual alien, would her name still be Nue?
Good question.
Hatate is the only playable character in the series to not have her own theme.
Do you know why I know this? I know this because I took a fucking stupid quiz, that Perfect Memento in question or whatever it's called, and the first question I got to test it was like, true or false, every playable character in Touhou has a theme, and I was like, oh, true, and it was like, false, Hatate does not have her own theme, and I was like, oh shit, you're right, and that information has stuck with me ever since. It's been years, and that information is still stuck with me. But, so yeah, of course I'd use it here. What else could I fucking talk about with Hatate? Huh?
Sunny Milk was blonde, an Eastern and Little Nature deity.
Isn't this fucked up? Can you believe this? I couldn't believe this. That's a different character. This artist only got like 5 chapters before they weren't doing it anymore. But she's clearly blonde. That is so that's like Alice level blonde. She's blonde with blue eyes, and then she turned into a redhead, like the sun. Wow, what do you mean like the sun? It's okay. Luna's is the most interesting in my opinion.
Luna's dress showcases the lunar cycle on it, a detail that was originally done by Zun. According to Hirasawa Makoto's artist comment for the 3 Fairies of Light's Who's Who entry, Luna was the only fairy of the 3 that Zun incorporated a light motif on. Sunny's sun sleeves and sash, and Star's star pattern along her outfit were designed by Hirasawa to match Luna. Interestingly, there is an image of Sunny Milk drawn by Zun where you can see a little half-sun on her sash, that dates back to Eastern and Little Nature deity.
Look at that. Isn't that the most perfect fucking dialogue imaginable for this information? Listen, most of the time the stock footage is a happy accident, but getting this particular stock footage is perfect. What? But yeah, here's how Makoto said that the light motif on Luna's skirt was made by Zun. It was the only one made by Zun. So he added the sun and the stars to Sunny and Star. But this sketch, which you can see is dated to Eastern and Little Nature deity, in 2006, the copyright there, or is it 2005? Either way, it's strange Eastern. It's Eastern and Little Nature deity, right? And you can see the sash has the sun pattern. So Makoto wasn't 100% correct. He did add the sun motif to her sleeves, but Zun actually did have a sun motif on the sash the whole time. So what Makoto was saying was not 100% correct, which I thought was very interesting, because obviously it wasn't malicious what he said, but I legitimately think he didn't know this, which is why he said that. So he added the stars, and he did add the sun to the sleeves, but Luna wasn't the only one with the celestial body motif that Zun designed in the first place. I thought that was really neat. And it's funny because, like, this is a Sunny fact, but it's tied to Luna, whereas the Sunny fact was that she was blonde. So technically Sunny gets more than one, so, you know.
Star's eye color was changed from gray to yellow, come strange and bright.
I like this one a lot.
While not the only change, the significance...
She also had black hair, but that's not the point.
So this particular one is that the three fairies now reflect each other's general color, with Luna having red eyes, Sunny having blue eyes, and now Star having yellow eyes.
I really like that. So obviously Luna's eyes aren't like deep red, they're like a faded red, but I really like that they reflect each other's, and they reflect each other in their eye colors in like a triangle. So they get the red and the blue, and then it goes down to blue and yellow, and it's yellow and red. So you follow them like that. The blue eyes go to Star, and the yellow eyes go to Luna, and the red eyes go to Sunny. I think that's a really nice detail, and because Star's eyes weren't yellow in any capacity, it didn't really work. And then the redesign kind of changed that, because she had Sunny had blue eyes, and Luna had light red eyes. But Star is the one who got the most changes from the first book to Makoto's. But the eye color was the most significant one to me, because I really feel like it was deliberate specifically because of how it ties in to that little triangle that I just mentioned. I really like that. These characters are great.
An interview with Zun and Chara Melfebvre mentions Kasen and Byakuden were potential extra stage bosses for 10 Desires. A fan-made Phantasm stage for the game, presumably...
Y'all got any more pixels?
Featured Kasen as its boss.
Oh.
This Phantasm stage is not downloadable anywhere, so this video on screen might be the only record of the original script left.
Yeah, so allow me to explain. So Rumble Temple, you might know that song comes from this script. The script was made shortly after that interview where Zun mentioned that he was thinking of an extra stage boss for 13. He thought of Kasen, he thought of Byakuden because they could work. He opted to not go with Byakuden because there was too many returning characters. Or I think it was Kasen or Byakuden. In the interview I just posted, but there was a concern for too many returning characters, keeping them out, and also Byakuden was just like the last boss. So he made a new one, which was Mamizou, and somebody made this Phantasm stage with Kasen. But this Phantasm stage is not available for download. There's a video of it, and somebody tried to make a recreation of it, but that recreation is also gone. So I don't know if this extra stage, or this Phantasm stage, is even playable anymore in any capacity at all. But there is a video of it in glorious 144p, as you can see. You can see the whole stage played by this player here. And yeah, it exists. It's really cool. It's not lost media. This video exists. It shows the whole thing. It's just you can't play it yourself.
The Strange Creators cross review for 10 Desires states that Kyoko is very good at reciting sutras, but doesn't understand them in the slightest.
Beating me won't help anything, you know. True. Yeah, so this comes from... I think this is mentioned somewhere else as well. I don't remember where, but... Yes, she's good at reading, and she recites them, but then she doesn't understand what she's saying at all. She just scream. Love that one.
Yoshika's Boom Boom Maru article says that there is no way to communicate with her at all about her intentions. So Oren was called in, as she is able to talk to corpses. That makes sense, except all of the playable characters were able to talk to Yoshika just fine. The only explanation outside of, it's a game, is that Yoshika learned to communicate between the article's date and the 10 Desires incident.
Yeah, so that one's kind of just a matter of video game needs to have the character understand. But it does say that only Rin can understand her because she talks to corpses. But then everybody can just talk to her anyway. So, cool, right? Not that she has anything really important to say, but it's kind of weird. Also, that article takes place before 10 Desires happens, of course. So maybe she did learn how to talk at that point. Either way, it's just kind of weird.
Seiga is referred to as a wicked hermit by a number of characters who know her.
As you can see, that is Symposium Opposed Mysticism, the 10 Desires Cross Review, and then the Music Room comment. All of them which call her a wicked hermit. So, everybody.
One of which even being Zun. An interesting exception is Kasen, who wonders if extending one's lifespan is truly a wicked thing. Although Kasen doesn't seem to know anything about Yoshika when considering what else would make Seiga a wicked hermit.
I have never seen Suika Kasen. Just in case you're wondering, I've never seen it. I've heard of it. I've been meaning to watch it for 3-ish years now. At some point, I will check it out. Surely. But I didn't mention that because of that. I mentioned that because Yoshika doesn't exist in that situation. Kasena's only thinking about it from in terms of extending your lifespan from that chapter. Yoshika doesn't appear in that chapter at all. But she's the only one who seems to question whether or not Seiga should be referred to as a wicked hermit. But she's only thinking in the sense that she's expanding her lifespan, and not because she's rising the dead. And that's kind of where everybody has their issue with her, is that she makes people come out of the ground. Necromancy. That's the problem that people have with her.
Tojiko's skin is a noticeably pinker tone than every other character in the game.
Seiga is not evil and malicious. She is silly, but maybe a little selfish. That's fine. You know, Byakuren called her pure evil. You know, Byakuren, Miko, Mamizou, Zun, and Akyu all called her wicked. This motherfucker likes the color red. That's all that matters here.
And, well, the series, for that matter. You can't even attribute it to her being a ghost, since Yuko is in the same game and looks nothing like it.
Why is Tojiko so fucking pink, dude? She's so pink. Why is she so fucking pink? Oh my god. She's so pink. Look at her. How are you gonna be that pink? Who does that even benefit? Whatever.
Futo's Strange Creator's Zun comment states that the ribbons tied to her hands, feet, neck,
reused,
and hat all correspond to the 5 colors of Feng Shui. Her fighting game appearance adjusts her outfit to give a purple bow tie and make one of the yellow feet ribbons blue. So she still represents the 5 colors, but in a much clearer, and frankly nicer looking, way.
I'm dead.
Symposium of Post-Mysticism refers to Miko's earwear as earmuffs, whereas prior in the Shada Malfebvre interview on 10 Desires, Zun referred to them as headphones. Regardless of which it is, or if it's both, the important part is that Zun made Miko's crazy hair tufts as a stand-in for her ears.
That's the best part about this fact. Not the headphones, earmuffs debacle. The fact that he made her stupid hair as a replacement for her ears that are covered by the headphones. That's why her hair looks like that. That was the best part of it. The whole factoid got thrown on its head. Where did Miko get headphones? If I knew that, I would probably have included it. I don't know. But he gave her headphones, earmuffs, whatever the fuck you want to call them. But yeah, she turns to an owl, Mamizou's transformation. But yeah, it's funny because Zun says right here in the interview about the hairstyle, they just serve as a replacement for her ears covered by the headphones. It was pretty hard coming up with that. Very funny.
One of Mamizou's portraits in Hopeless Masquerade gives her 6 fingers on her raised hand.
I want you to look at that. You can see that, right? She has 6 fingers up there. She's got a thumb, an index, a middle, a ring, and a pinky. Why does she have that? I don't know. Meanwhile, look at Nitori's tube arm on the left there. Ain't that some shit?
If that wasn't enough, one of her intros is her showing off.
I couldn't believe this was real. I could not fucking believe this was real. Can you believe this? What the hell is this?
Showing off her figure.
What is this?
Except it was just a tanuki.
Boing.
And her barrier block turns her into a Jizo statue, like Mario's tanuki suit.
So I didn't mention it, but also her spell card here, where she turns into the kettle, that's actually tied to a very famous tanuki story about the tanuki who turns into the pot. I don't remember the details. Go figure, streamer. You don't remember anything. But Yeah, there's a story about a Tanuki who I think he turns into a pot or a kettle or something like that. I don't remember the details, so I can't say much more. But basically, this particular spell card is based on a very well-known folklore involving Tanuki, which I thought was pretty neat, and I didn't mention it here.
I couldn't settle on just one Mamizou appearance, so I included more than you wanted, just like Sun. Kosuzu's character title and character
That wasn't
name
shade,
share the
that was
same
truth.
Name, that name being the bibliophile with a deciphering eye. Kokoro's special intro with Hitori can pull from 3 different masks, one of which is a silver Hisotensoku mask, though I couldn't tell you with confidence what the other masks are a reference to.
Does anybody actually know?
Brain eye. Kokoro's special intro with Hitori can pull from...
Like, I don't know what these are. I assume one of them is like robots, but I don't know what the cat one is. Now, here's something interesting. Characters in this game have grabs. When you grab with Kokoro, she strikes this pose, but she only wears the mask on the right there, the red one with the yellow eyes. She only wears that mask for that attack. I thought maybe she would wear the mask that she pulled out in the intro. I tested it, didn't work that way. So yeah, the main mask is the red one with the 3 yellow spikes, and that's the one that she pulls out during her grab.
3 different masks, one of which is a silver Hisotensoku mask, though I couldn't tell you with...
Isn't she precious? What a goofball.
Confidence what the other masks are a reference to. That concludes the next era. There's still a good number left, and there won't be another break until the end, so feel free to catch a breather before continuing.
Do you like that? Do you like how I said catch right
left,
when I
and there
grabbed
won't be another break
Doremi?
until the end, so feel free to catch...
You see that? We catch. Catch. Got her.
Catch a breather.
We got her.
Before continuing.
Boom.
All of Wakasagihime's in-game appearances take place on the Misty Lake.
Do you see it? Look at her tail. Look at her tail. Look at her tail.
And you can see in her boss sprite she is resting on the water and not actually flying. The only time this gets confusing is that she's also performing in the Grimoire Busami's Danmaku fireworks. So maybe she can fly after all?
Yeah, that one's really confusing. So she performs at the Grimoire Busami, which is a fireworks festival where they all go in the air and fire Danmaku, and she's a part of it. So how the fuck did she get up there? Sure, I guess she can fly, but like I'm led to believe that she can't fly because all of her appearances are her in the Misty Lake on the water surface. Anyway,
Monkey's heads are intangible in all of her spell cards except multiplicative head.
This one's funny.
All the copies can be destroyed.
I showed this one off before, though.
The head directly above Sekibanki can be destroyed as well, but it has significantly more health than the other heads. Hitting too close to Banki's body creates a constant pink wave of bullets, and of course the timer. So you'd never be able to do it in a real setting. But it does effectively end the spell card, provided you keep your distance from the body.
Defenseless.
Kageto's defeated art has no actual battle damage to her outfit at all. Instead, she is covered in hair.
I believe she's the only character in the series with battle damage that doesn't actually damage her outfit in the slightest. But she's covered in hair.
Something she actively tries to avoid. Yatsuhashi's red strings are representative of her instrument, the koto.
Boring
She has never actually
character.
appeared with a proper one, making her the only clearly named Tsukumogami to not feature their object.
Do you like that? Do you like when I emphasize things to prevent people from getting on me? Do you like that? Clearly named Tsukumogami. Clearly named, alright? I don't want to hear no bullshit. Clearly named. Fuck you.
In Forbidden Scrolleries, Chapter 16, Benben can be seen playing her instrument near Yatsuhashi with a noticeably longer score.
You know what's funny about this particular image? Is that for some reason, Yatsuhashi has a mole on her cheek. And I don't know if that was intended or if that was an accident that was missed by the artist. Because there's just no reason for her to have a mole on her cheek there at all. But it's there. I don't know why. Yeah.
Given that Yatsuhashi's score is absent, it's possible that they're able to combine them for whatever purpose that serves. And this merging of score is made much clearer in the Sisters Who's Who image, if you want to count that as canon.
Yeah, so I don't really know the specifics to it, but you can see it here as well. But you see, like, the score that comes off the biwa and the score that kind of goes around Yatsuhashi's skirt, and they're combining them to create one long score. I don't really get how that works at all, but it's here in the Who's Who art, and it's also there in the Forbidden Scrollery art. And it's something they can do, which is cool, but I don't really get it. Yatsuhashi was a really hard character to find something interesting for, because she's probably the most nothing character in the entire series. I don't know, it's weird to say, because, like, even the characters who are, like, literally nothing characters have more to them somehow than Yatsuhashi does. It's actually kind of sad how little Yatsuhashi has. And she doesn't even have enough to really make up shit either. You can't even make shit up for her. It just doesn't work. She's so hard to work with, dude. Even Tokiko, you can work with her. You know, you can put her with Renosuke. She's a bird. You can put her with birds. She's angry at Reimu. You can make her angry at Reimu. What do you do with Yatsuhashi? What does she do? What do you do? I don't know what you do. What do you do? Huh? What does she do? She looks like every Touhou character combined. Okay, this one's crazy because I actually didn't even realize this was a thing until I did this video.
Debuted with a streak of red highlight in her hair, though her appearance in Impossible Spell Card put a bigger emphasis on a white highlight with multiple red highlights, which can be seen reflected on her player sprite. However, this portrait art is only used in the game's menus, with all the story bits reusing Sage's double-dealing character portrait. Shimmy's
You see that shit? Isn't that crazy? That is a complete... Look at her hair. I never even noticed that. Never noticed that at all. But, like, her hair is completely different. And then it's just like, oh, actually, it's DDC again. Completely different. The streaks are just inverted in their colors. Multiple red streaks, a white streak. Multiple white streaks, a red streak. Granted, there's more white here than just one, but point is, it's like completely different somehow. But also not fully. But I say not fully because you can see the white streak in their main hair, but then there's the red bangs that exist in this one that aren't present at all here. Like, at all. It's really weird. Also, where'd her fucking band... Where'd her wristband go? Wait, what? Wait, what? Where'd her wristband go? That's the same arm, jackass. She took it off. Why'd she take it off? That doesn't even make any sense. Wait, her skirt is also missing the frilly section in between the arrows. Who are you? I don't even know who you are anymore. You're not even the same character at this point. You're a liar. You're fake. You're not real. You're full of shit. Alright. Watch your tone, motherfucker.
Detailed bowl. However, the bowl she's riding in her player sprite is much simpler in design.
This is reused
that
content.
Design is actually the same design as the bowl she wore on her head in her debut. Raiko's first
reused content, but it's still cool. The bold design.
8 spell cards are numbered 1 through 8, though the 4th card is actually written as Death Drum. This is due to the pronunciation of death and 4 in Japanese, both being she.
I fucking hate this spell card, dude. The spell card's so obnoxious. It's just, here's single wave of bullet. Alright, now shake the screen all over the fucking place. Yeah, dodge that, asshole. It's like what a 7-year-old would think is difficult. Oh, what if you had to fucking stand still, but someone grabbed you and shook you like a fucking baby? Like, what? That's an idiotic spell card. But it's cool that it's called Death Drum, because death and 4 are same, they're read the same way. So her drums are like 1, 2, 3, death, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's cool. I thought that was neat.
Sumireko's uniform is annoying.
Okay, be ready for this one. I'm just gonna let my ass talk about this one.
She debuted with long sleeves, and in Violet Detector, they were short. In Wild Horn Hermit, she appears again in the short sleeve version, and it's clearly indicated that it is her summer uniform, which means her fighting game version should be her winter uniform. Then there's the Cola uniform. This looks more like a winter uniform. However, the chapters she appears on the cover for take place in summer and spring. Summer specifying summer break, so perhaps this outfit is actually casual clothes. But then Zun's comment in Who's Who suggests that Sumireko has only ever appeared in a uniform, so then what the hell is up with the Cola outfit? And don't even get me started on this particular cover. Good God.
pain in my cock. That's what that is. Absolute pain. It doesn't make any sense. It made perfect sense when one was a summer uniform and one was a winter uniform, and then this happened, and it didn't make any fucking sense. None of it made any fucking sense. What even is that drip? Well, I would assume it's a fucking school uniform, but we know what her school uniform looks like. So, what is that? Also, it's just, like, massive, dude. I don't get it. It's really confusing. It's really confusing.
Seiden has no visible tail until her appearance in Unfinished Dream of All Living Ghosts showed one on her player sprite. However, Zun's music comment on her theme did actually confirm one the whole time. Ringo makes a reference to Mugetsu show in her dialogue with Reimu, stating that Reimu seems familiar to her, and asks if Reimu came to the lunar capital a while ago. A while ago being 6 years, mind you, but Reimu was forced to show off that she can channel gods around the capital, so it's understandable someone of Ringo's position would be aware of Reimu, if only vaguely. Ringo actually appears again in Reimu's legacy
Double
hit
trouble.
claiming she had heard of the shrine from the rabbits who had been here in the past. If the past here is similar to a while ago, then the only rabbit Ringo could have heard of this place from was Reisen, another nod to Bogetsu show. According to an interview with Zun,
I thought that one was cool.
Dorami's inclusion in Antinomy of Common Flowers was mainly because Zun wanted to include a Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom character on the roster, and Dorami was pretty much the only choice.
Clown Piece was considered, as you can see, but she was not interesting. Could you imagine being Zud in this case and being like, Clown Piece in a fighting game? I don't know, that seems kind of lame. Like, alright, I mean, it's fitting to the story, sure. But I think Clown would be a very interesting character. Dorami was cool, though. I like Dorami. Dorami was actually a very creative character, the long and short of it. But it's interesting that originally it was just like, I want to include a character from the new game, but it's really hard to work with any of them. So Dorami was the only like process of elimination, which then that got the Dream World involved, and the Dream World became its whole, like, really got a lot of more depth to it than, I guess, anticipated. She became kind of a big part of it. All in all, despite her origin for the game kind of being like, no one else works.
Sagume makes a cameo in Forbidden Scrollery that shows that her hair has a braid in the back. You can also partially see this braid in her Who's Who image. You really can't tell if it's braided in the LOL K artwork, and the alternative facts and Eastern Utopia article images make it look like nothing more than a small ponytail.
You know what's interesting about this? So I went with the hairstyle one at the time, but I realized after making the video that this particular article, despite it being an alternative facts and being, you know, the as it is clearly a picture of it happening, mind you, is the fact that Sagume does show up at the end of the Grimoire of Usami to stop the fireworks festival. So Sagume does in fact have a way to just come and go from Gensokyo as she pleases. So that itself could have been an interesting fact to mention, is that despite everything about Lunarians and whatnot, and Sagume can kind of just be like, all right, I'm going to Earth, and she just goes to Earth. Like, she's so high up the chain of command, I guess, that she doesn't actually have to give a shit about the rules, and nobody says anything. Nobody cares. Because she's clearly here hanging out with Eren, despite the Watatskis being like, oh man, I hope our master's well. We haven't seen our master since she, like, ran away with the princess. It's been forever. And then Sagume comes, and it's like, Sagume's literally just like, I'm gonna go have tea with Eren. And then she goes and has tea with Eren. It's like a big fucking dramatic moment for the Watatsuki sisters, and meanwhile Sagume can just go blip bloop, and then she's in and she's out. And it's like, oh, I guess she can just do that. And Sagume's position puts her higher than the Watatskis, if you were wondering. Her, as far as I can tell, she is the highest authority that we know of for Lunarians. But yeah, the fact that she can kind of just come and go like this is kind of funny when you think about how the Watatskis' quote-unquote character development was related to the relationship with Eren, and not being able to, like, actually interact with her or even know how she's doing. But Sakume can just kind of go like, glurp, and then she's hanging out, having tea, and then she goes home. What is this character?
According to Hirasawa Makoto's interview in Strange Creators, the decision for a 4th entry in the Gengetsu series was made near the end of the 3rd one.
This one's
Legacy of
crazy.
Lunatic Kingdom, specifically Clown Piece, happened about a year prior to Visionary's debut, with Makoto stating that it was really all a coincidence.
So I actually had a little more I wanted to talk about here, but I ended up scrapping it. So specifically that last line that Zun has, he says, it won't be interesting if the series was the same as before, so we have to think about how to shake things up with this new entry. So basically what Makoto was saying here was that while the 3rd entry, Oriental Sacred Place, was going on, they decided they wanted to do another one, and this was years before LOL-K. And then when it finally came around for Visionaries to happen, LOL-K had happened, and Clown Piece was the hotness, and Clown Piece became kind of like the main character of Visionaries, right? So and Makoto here says that it was kind of a coincidence that it all correlated like that. But what I scrapped was my belief that it's possible that what Zun's saying specifically, that, you know, he was saying it won't be interesting to series to say it was for the entry, right? He's saying that something has to change. So I'm wondering how much of an impact Gengetsu had on the creation of Clown Piece, or the direction of LOL-K's story in general, right? I wonder how much forethought Zun actually gave Clown Piece in this instance regarding the Gengetsu stuff, or if it really was just a happy accident, or if Zun was like, I'm gonna like set this character up, and then when we it's hard to know for sure, but I do think it's very interesting that Makoto here assumes that Clown Piece's existence, Legacy Lunatic Kingdom coming out, and the fact that they had decided 6 years prior, and Zun wanted something new to happen, that with the 4th series, that it all kind of was just like, oh, okay. But I wonder how much of that was really just kind of coincidence, and how much of it was Zun planning ahead, you know? I thought that was really interesting. And this is from Strange Creators, and this article is not really newly translated, but it wasn't translated the first time I read through Strange Creators, so I didn't even know it was translated when I was looking through information. But the article was pretty cool in general, but this is the most interesting information I got from it, was just kind of how Clown Piece's existence, LOL-K, and Visionaries, and how it all kind of connects. It's something to think about, I suppose. It really is just that last line that Zun says that really makes you think, right? It makes you think about how much of it was truly a coincidence.
Junko's omake states that it was a human that appeared before her with impurity wiped away, likely due to the use of some drug. This omake would mean that Reisen's route isn't possible, nor would Sanae's point device route. All the legacy self-clear endings mention not using the elixir, while none of the no-miss endings mention using it. This is due to the ending for the no-miss legacy being the same as the point device clear. Sanae's self-clear ending suggests a possibility that all of the Junko defeated endings are obtained through legacy no-miss, not point device. Sidetrack aside, the initial point here was that Junko's omake is unreliable for canon.
So like I said, Junko's omake states that she was approached. Before her appeared a lone human who was under the effects of a certain drug. And like I said, that would mean that Reisen did not happen, and that would mean that Sanae could not have, if Sanae couldn't happen based on the legacy hit ending, which means that either what that says is true. If what Junko's omake says is true, then the person who defeated Junko had to have been Reimu or Marisa. But because of the nature of the elixir itself, it's more likely that the omake isn't to be taken as 100% truth. I think that's the more likely situation. But I thought that was really interesting, because the omake's existence completely removes the ability for two characters to actually have beaten the game within the game itself. Which, when you think about it, usually it is just Reimu and Marisa anyway. So it's just leaving the two main characters for it. But yeah, you don't really see like retconning like that in the omake, right? It's like, oh, I beat the game as Reisen, cool. I read the omake and it's like a human stands before me. Reisen's not a human, so that means that Reisen's route could not have happened at all. And if Junko's omake is true, then Junko never met Reisen, which would mean every single instance of Junko x Reisen media you've ever seen is impossible. Now, isn't that something to think about? Isn't that something to think about? If Junko's omake is to be taken as fact, then she's never met Reisen before ever. So they should never ever be paired up in any capacity. Wow. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Right? Isn't that kind of crazy to think about?
In an interview in Strange Creators regarding Law K, Zun mentioned his design philosophy for Hekatia was a simple but a little weird appearance. The planets Hekatia carries were the intended weird appearance, and the simple part Zun settled on was her t-shirt. Funny how that one worked out, huh? Little bonus here is that Zun considered changing his shirt whenever she changed form, and you gotta wonder why he opted to not go through with it. Jun's win quote against Sumireko suggests that her clothes and bag are knockoff brands. Mamizou's win quote against Jun suggests that her gems and brand names are in fact legit. And Dorami's win quote against Jun suggests that I can fix her.
True!
In the same interview mentioned at Dorami,
True!
Shion was created to give Jun a proper partner character. Though likely due to time constraints, Shion could only really be an extension of Jun's moveset, rather than a full character herself.
He's
It's
so
worth mentioning
right.
that
Who
Shion's
made this
origins
video?
aren't
I should
too
give him a
dissimilar
like.
to the lanky purple lad, Waluigi. And while she doesn't really have anything in common with him, comparisons between Jun and Wario exist to wrap it all together.
So yeah, this is an actual alternate color for Jun in Titamiya Common Flowers, but Shion is not dressed like Waluigi in this costume at all. But this is very clearly Wario colored. You cannot convince me otherwise.
Cherno's extra stage has Okina suggest
Okay, this one's crazy. Pay attention to it.
that Eternity isn't actually a butterfly fairy, but a god Okina considers her enemy. Eternity does have some peculiarities to her. A good example is her using Peace's torch. But during the fairy confrontation against Okina, no special attention or mention is given to Eternity. This could mean that Cherno's extra stage isn't canon, however a few aspects suggest otherwise. First is that in the extra stage, Cherno forgot who Okina was and remembered upon confronting her. And in Visionary, Cherno figured the culprit had to be the back lady. The other is that Okina only offered Cherno a job upon clearing the extra stage, and in Visionary, Okina remembers Cherno and asks if she had decided to work for her after all.
You see? So the things that happen in Visionaries can only make sense if Cherno beat Okina in the extra stage. And that's why it's weird that despite all that having to have happened for this dialogue to make sense, she doesn't pay any attention to Eternity, despite her only acknowledging Eternity's secret, quote-unquote, in the defeated text of the extra stage. But as you can see here, it's really the comment that really seals it is that she says, "You decided to work for me after all," where the only time Okina offers Cherno a job is when she beats her in the extra stage. So I thought that was kind of crazy. The other one I was going to use was the fact that nobody actually permanently lives in the Garden of the Sun. Yuka is not known to live there. She's known to be there, but not known to live there. And then Eternity does live there, but she goes to the Forest of Magic in the winter and lives in a hole in the ground. And I was like, that's not as interesting. And I found this, and I really looked into it, and I was like, wait, this is actually really cool. Like, just the specific words that are thrown around make it so the extra stage had to have happened. And then it gets really kind of weird because it's like she doesn't seem to pay any attention to Eternity despite her acknowledging, what happened. But again, you could argue that that wouldn't matter if Cherno never fought her in the extra stage. But then there's a couple instances here that show that the extra stage did very much happen and Cherno did beat Okina that time. So why is she not caring about Eternity, right? What's going on there? So I turned this whatever one into something that I thought was really interesting. I was very proud of this one.
Nemono is the only one of the first 4 bosses in the game to not know one of the protagonists. This is reflected in the endings, where On is in Reimu's, Narumi is in Marisa's, and Eternity is in Cherno's. If you're wondering who appears with Aya, it's actually a rare Hatate appearance.
Who dat?
On's final spell card splits her in 2. a reference to the fact that komainu come in pairs. Zun's music comment on her theme states her character concept as a single divine beast acting as a pair.
She also has a
According
tail.
to On's Grimoire Busami comment, On can't make both move independently, and she doesn't like doing it for long due to how tiring it is. In the final stage of On's route in Unfinished Dream and All Living Ghosts, On laughs at Yashie's plan, claiming that she is a pair of divine beasts and that there are two of her. I guess what I'm getting at here is, how exactly does On's other half even work?
That's the question. That is the question, chat. How the fuck does this other part of her work at all? If at first she's supposed to be 2 in 1, and then she has a spell card that duplicates her, but she can only make them, she can't make the other act independently, and she can't do it for long, and then she's here where she's gloating to Yashie that there's 2 of her because she comes in pairs. How does it work? I don't get how it works. It doesn't make any sense.
Narumi's cameo in Wild and Horned Hermit is the only time she has appeared in canon without any snow covering her hat.
Streamer, are you serious? That's the best you got? That's the best you got. Yeah, actually, it is the best I got. Huh? What do you want me to say? There's nothing else. This is it. This is the only time she appears in canon without snow on her fucking hat. There you go. I bet you didn't know that. I bet you didn't know that, so I bet you learned something new. Huh? I bet you did, fucker.
Marisa's extra stage clear has Okina offer Marisa a servant job, asking Marisa who she would like to be, and stating that Tereda in charge of life energy, or Nishida in charge of mental energy. While it's not exactly clear, it's possible that Mai and Satono's last names are more so titles given by Okina to distinguish her servants' roles.
Neat, huh?
Since these two are always together, they'll share both entries. Yukari mentions in the Grimoire Busami that Satono and Mai are stuck in the space between human and yokai. I suppose that could categorize them as human, yokai, or species completely unique to them.
So I actually, despite what I was, not really liking those characters, those two factoids I think are very interesting. So the idea that Mai and Satono, Tereda and Nishida are not really their names, but titles based on her conversation with Marisa, but also Yukari's comment about them being trapped between the border of yokai and human, which in a way would make them their own unique classification of species. I thought that was really cool. It's a shame that nobody cares about those characters at all. So nothing happens, Nothing ever happens, the end.
Okina's final spell in Stage 6 steals the player's subseason, rendering it unusable. However, there is a window where you can release before Okina snatches it, and deal damage to Okina. His damage is most notable with the winter subseason.
Yeah.
Eika's portrait art skin color is notably darker than the other characters, though her boss sprite skin color is about what you'd expect from Zun.
According to Zun, she's based off of brown jellyfish. I don't know what exactly a brown jellyfish is because I googled it and I did not get a definitive answer. But yeah, that would explain the skin tone if she's based on a brown jellyfish. But yeah, I couldn't find the specific to it.
All of the natural-born Oni characters have
Okay, this one's actually kind of insane because I didn't even know this.
chains of some kind attached to them.
You see that? You see how all of them have chains attached to their wrists? Look at that. Isn't that really interesting? What a common theme for all these Oni.
Usually their wrists. Urumi is an Ushi Oni,
Whoa.
a type of Oni, and this chain is present on her design. It's
It
a rather
is.
small feature
Look at that.
is only visible on one side, and it kind of looks like it's part of her footwear.
She has a chain. She has a chain on her design. I thought that was part of her shoe.
Urumi's Who's Who portrait makes the chains a lot more noticeable, and you can see them on both legs.
See? So she's a type of Oni and she's got chains. That's actually really fucking cool. But Zun's art makes it look like it's part of her goddamn shoe. This is really weird. Also, I said natural-born Oni. Did you catch that part? Natural-born Oni. Oni that were born as Oni, didn't become Oni. That's a very important distinction.
While one of Kutaka's expressions does indicate the little chick in her hair is chirping, none of the portraits change the chick's expression. In Goyoku Ibun, however, the majority of Kutaka's portraits show the little chick emoting to match Kutaka's expression.
Yeah, it's
Bonus trivia
alive.
Here is
See?
Kutaka's whistle originates from this game, and it's currently her only appearance with it.
It's also her last appearance ever, but that's besides the point, Zun. That's besides the point. Yeah, so the bird doesn't change its expression at all in 17, and then in 17.5, almost every every single portrait art change that Kutaka has the little chick match change its expression. It's pretty cool.
Yashie received a rather surprising amount of changes from 17 to 19. Notable ones being her eyes going from red to yellow, and the absolute size of her tail.
Big.
Her tail is so big that it extends into other characters' screen real estate, and the game itself takes a couple cracks at it. Examples being Yuma saying she wants to do the giant swing on her tail, and from Yashie herself in the mirror match when, quote, questioning if her tail got bigger. Mayumi's only used bullet type are arrow bullets. Notably, her only personal contribution to her spell cards are single waves of purple bullets, with the exception of her final spell, where she doesn't shoot anything at all.
So Mayumi only shoots arrows, right? She only shoots arrows, and during not all of her spell cards, she only fires single waves of purple arrows. All of the other attack in the spell card comes from her cohorts. And in the final attack, none of the bullets come from her at all. They only come from the Haniwa. So she has less bullet variety than Ichiden does, which I thought was kind of crazy. Because Ichiden at least has like lasers and rice bullets, but Mayumi only has arrows. She only fires arrows, and that's it. Different colored arrows. She has yellow ones for her nons. I think she has blue ones too, but yeah, she only fires arrows. Does Tojiko only use arrows too? No, I don't think so. Doesn't she fire circles? Because that's what keeps you moving in the lane of the electricity, doesn't it? Also, she's a mid-boss with one spell card. Mayumi is a stage 5 end boss. That's not really a fair comparison.
Keiki's spell cards more or less follow the same name convention.
This one's
Easy
cool.
And normal versions
This
are
one's
referred
cool.
to as
I never noticed this
while
one.
The hard and lunatic versions are referred to as creatures. Her last 3 spell cards are the
So
same.
if you missed that because you don't pay attention, on easy and normal she has creatures, she has sculpting arts. On hard and lunatic they're all creatures, but then here,
regardless of difficulty, with the third from last being a sculpting art, and the penultimate being a creature.
Yeah, so the third last and the second last become sculpture art and creatures specifically. I thought that was really cool. So they're all sculpting arts in lower difficulties. They're all creatures in higher difficulties. But then you get one sculpting art and one creature in the final 3 spell cards.
Don't ask me about Idola Diabolus, though.
I don't even know what the fuck that means. That spell card's stupid anyway.
We can see Saki without her hat on in Zamu's ending, revealing a distinct lack of animal ears. Saki has visible wings and a tail, so it's strange to see the arguably most prominent aspect of the animal girl missing. Though, given this is only visible in an ending, it's very possible Zun simply forgot about them.
Why'd you do it? Why to Enoko? Yeah, she appeared without her hat in Zamu's ending, no ears. But she has a very big tail and obviously big wings, so, you know.
It took 28 months from Cheating Detective Satori's first chapter to reveal what Mizuchi looked like.
Okay, so the best part about this, first of all, do you like my choice of footage? My choice of footage is Shadow Mima. Ooh. Shadow Mima. Ooh. And yes, from chapter 1 to chapter 16, Mizuchi was first shown off in chapter 16. And it took exactly 26 months. You see that? It took 3 fucking years. Close to 3 fucking years on the same day for us to finally see what Mizuchi looked like. We never even got to see what that bitch looked like in the old art style. We didn't get to see it at all. The art style changed before we got to see what she looked like.
All of Mioi's promotional appearances feature the Ibuki gourd on hand. While yes, she does possess the gourd, she doesn't actually possess the gourd.
Streamer, your wordplay is so fucking good. You should get a degree in comedy. I should, shouldn't I?
Side note, as of this writing, all of Lotus Eater's volume covers feature some kind of alcohol container in them. Except for volume 6.
Yeah.
Unless Aya can drink her pen.
Aya can, in fact, shouldn't drink her pen. But yes, this actually still applies because I wrote this before the Marisa cover came out, and Miko and Reimu was the latest one, and that one also features a container for drinking alcohol. This is the only one that doesn't. And it's just Aya with her pen and notebook. But all the other ones feature an alcohol drink. It's interesting.
Yuma makes a cameo in Lotus Eaters Chapter 36. And
okay, this one's actually kind of insane because this is the same fucking artist in the same series, Lotus Eaters.
And Chapter 48. As of Chapter 36, Goyoku Ibun was her only appearance.
So this is the chapter where Reimu goes and meets Yugi, right? And she mentions Suika goes off to talk to the Touhou Totetsu. And here, 17.5 is the only game, right? So here we have the artist drawing Yuma as we know her.
Cameo reflects that. However, by Chapter 48, Unfinished Dream of All Living Ghosts had released, and Mizutaki...
Yep. And then in the same series... when 19 comes out and he's drawing all the characters who appeared in 19 in the little cameo window talking about the incident, here she is again, same artist, same series, and she looks like this now. These are both from Lotus Eaters. These are both from Lotus Eaters. So that shit is so funny.
Did in fact draw Yuma according to Zun's domesticated version of her. As Mike is the first boss of...
Okay, this one's actually kind of crazy, because I couldn't believe this was real until I actually, paid attention.
Draw Yuma according to
Zun's pay attention, please.
Version of her. As Mike is the first boss of Unconnected Marketeers, you'd expect her to explain the rules of the game to the player.
I do!
While she does tell the protagonist that they can't take the cards through force, she only mentions the one card per transaction rule to Sakuya. It's worth noting that Takane mentions this to Reimu, and no one mentions this to Marisa or Sanae, so they just kind of acknowledge the rule based on previous trades. Takane has 2 right hands.
This is true. This is really true. Did you know this? Did you know this? Takane has 2 right hands. I got fucked up by that. I was looking at her hand for minutes, being like, surely that's not 2 right hands, right? No, that's 2 right hands. Both of her thumbs are pointing in the same direction, and you cannot reason the card holding hand as anything but a right hand. You just can't. You can't do it. It doesn't work.
Even if you try to argue that the closest finger to the camera is actually her pinky, how would you explain the way she is holding those cards between it and her ring finger?
See, you can't do it. You can't explain it. It's impossible to explain it. It's impossible. Ain't that some crazy shit, though? I mean, there's nothing wrong with her having 2 right hands. Miko also has 2 right hands. Minariko's got 2 left feet. But I was just kind of surprised by that, because I didn't even notice it until I was, really looking for something. And honestly, the last fact I just said about Mike, you could also use for Takane, so... I didn't think too much after this. This next one's actually very interesting because it's really confusing why it exists in the first place.
For some reason, in the Unconnected Marketeers demo, Sanyo's boss sprite is reflective of her damaged art. This unique situation was fixed in the full version, but you gotta wonder how this happened in the first place, since bosses kinda explode at the end of the fight. There's no boss sprite to even see by the time the player gets to the damaged art.
Yeah, so if you didn't really notice it because it's hard to see.
Version, but you gotta wonder reflective of her damage.
For some reason, the boss cut-in sprite there is reflective of the damaged art. You can see the cut on the sleeve and the cut along the skirt, but that's her fight boss. You fight her like that, and then when you defeat her, she looks like that in her portrait art. But when you defeat a boss, they explode, right? They explode. It doesn't even make any sense, because you can clearly see her talking here, and she's clearly talking before the fight has started, and she's fully clothed. Look at that. There's a very obvious difference. See? You can see it, because you can see her nameplate for the character that's introducing her, so you can tell this dialogue is from before the fight. So that shows her fully clothed. But for some reason, the cut-in sprite is damaged. And then when you get to the full game, that's fixed. And then when she explodes, then she has the damaged art properly, and it makes sense. So how the fuck did that happen? I really don't understand how that happened. What if Sanyo wasn't meant to explode? What if Sanyo, when you knock her down, I almost said a different direction, she just kind of stands there in front of you and she's like, oh, okay. But like, there's no reason for Sanyo to like exist with damaged art. It's really weird how that happened. It's just really weird how that happened. I'm not even sure how that could happen.
To even see by the time the player gets to the damaged art. Misamaru is currently the only character to both know who all the protagonists were in their debut game and address them by their names.
So specifically here, I've put except Reimu. The reason for that is because she doesn't actually tell Reimu, but she mentions Reimu's name as her last piece of dialogue when Reimu's already flown off. But for all the other characters, she knows who they are. She refers to them by their full names, and then she doesn't really explain how she knows of them at all. The most interesting one, I think, is Sakuya. Sanai, sure. Reimu, obviously. Marisa, believable. But Sakuya is a really weird one for Misamaru to just, like, know who she is. And, yeah, I don't know. She's the only character. Like, most of the time, every character you fight in these games doesn't know who you are. You introduce them, like, sometimes you don't even, the characters don't even introduce themselves, but Misamaru knows all these characters and addresses them by their full names. She's very aware for some reason.
However, how she knows everyone is not addressed at all, and I doubt it ever will be.
See?
Tsukasa was unique in her debut for being a non-final stage boss with proper dialogue that had no damaged art, as while Sagame doesn't use one either, she is confirmed to have one.
Interesting that the factoid was kind of something she used to be known for. But yeah, Tsukasa didn't have damaged art at all, and she was the only character who didn't have damaged art who had like a speaking role. Because Sagame also doesn't have damaged art, but it exists. First of all, we have confirmation from Zun that it exists, that he didn't use it, and second, we actually have the damaged art itself pulled out of the files, which would be this, revealing a red undershirt. And yeah, the reason he didn't use it was because he spent so long explaining the game in the defeated sequence that it felt weird. That it felt weird to just have her be damaged like that. Also because she's a Lunarian and she definitely wasn't trying hard and she was taking it easy on you and blah blah blah.
This changed an unfinished dream of all living ghosts, where we can now clearly see some form of black underclothes, which, when you think about it, matches her personality quite well.
Another smaller detail I think is really neat about Tsukasa's design here is the fact that she's carrying around the 3 little vials, and they're colored like the individual animal spirits. So she's got a wolf spirit, an otter spirit, and an eagle spirit. Granted, the eagle spirit should be more purple than blue, but that's kind of, that's tomato, right? But yeah, I think that's pretty cool that she's carrying around the animal spirits to use for combat. But she gets damaged art in this game, and she's wearing a black undershirt, which, like I said, I think is very fitting for the character's, like, overall personality and appearance in general. The pure white, like, she tells you what you want to hear, and she helps you attain fortunes, but then it all leads to your disaster. So she's actually, the black inside underneath the white it's cool symbolism. I think it's pretty cool.
Megumu's response to Tsukasa attempting to fight on her behalf is the same for every character except Reimu, where instead of just calling Tsukasa a weakling, acknowledges she couldn't handle such an opponent. This uniqueness extends a bit further with Tsukasa's final line in the stage, where she exclaims that Reimu will do a proper job for them, as opposed to simply remarking on Megumu's method of betrayal.
Yeah, so what I was saying there, you remember how I mentioned with Mai? Mima has unique dialogue with Mai, where other characters don't. But in this game, Reimu has a slightly unique... this is like Reimu leaves dialogue, because she's the Hakude Shrine Maiden. But there's slightly different dialogue with Reimu, where all the other characters share similar literally the same dialogue in these instances. But Reimu gets slightly altered dialogue, reflecting her position as the Hakude Shrine Maiden. So, kind of pulled a double on that one for Megumu, because I don't have anything else to say about Megumu. There's not really a lot to go off of. But I thought that one was pretty neat, because kind of rare that you see... Well, it's not rare that you see different dialogue, but it's kind of rare when you see a outlier dialogue in an instance where the dialogue is supposed to kind of be the same.
In Sakuya's alternate ending, Shimada tells Sakuya that she can open a market as long as a special event
I like
occurs.
this one. I probably should have looked at the other extra endings. This is the only one I ended up seeing. I am Pete Asprey. That's why I seem familiar.
In examples such as a meteor impact or volcanic eruption. While one of these did actually happen at
Almost
the SDM,
happened. Almost happened. I should specify almost happened. But yeah, Shimada mentions that she can make markets based on she can make markets based when events happen, and we see it in Lotus Years with the red snow. We see it in full action. But she mentions a couple examples, one of them being a meteoric impact. And the funny thing is that way back in Bohemian Archive, there was an impending meteoric impact on the SDM, but Flandre crushed the meteor and saved the day. So I thought that was very funny that was like, I don't know if it was necessarily a reference to it, but it felt like such a specific mention of a disaster that it had to be a reference to this event, so I had to include it.
They settled on painting the ceiling like a rainbow to host indoors. Momoyo's Dragon Eater spell card
this one's from the Rage Phase video. This one's great.
Around the 20-second mark, the clutter of
Look at
bullets
this shit.
stopped dispersing, but continue to spew bullets from them anyways. This might be the only spell card in the series that has never been timed out due to the absurdity of this error.
Look at that! Look at that! It just breaks. Yeah, so I found this on the Rage Phase video, so I learned this one. But I don't think anyone has ever actually beaten this spell card with a true timeout because of the way the bullets start acting in the last 20 seconds or so of the spell card. It just breaks, and then this happens. It's really fucking funny. Just micro. Bro, why aren't you trying, huh? I've seen the shit that you try with this game. Why don't you try it? Try timing out Momoyo's Dragon Eater without getting hit. I bet you probably could. You just gotta micro for 20 seconds. You could probably do it. You just gotta get good. My dog ate my copy of Bro, somebody post this guy at Cojones. He would never. He could never. $1 million on the line. He couldn't.
Biten's outfit is very similar in design to Nemuno's. Sun talks a bit about this in Strange Creator's interview about the game, stating it was to establish a connection to the Yamamba. He also mentions Nemuno's ability, the ability to create sacred spaces, which is relevant to the game, as the plot in this plot is a Yamamba sanctuary land.
Do you like that? Do you like that wordplay? The plot in this plot? Isn't that... Oh my god. Isn't that so fucking, like, smooth how I said it like that? You know, like, plot, like, land, and then plot as in, like, story. Oh, boy. My god, how does he do it? It's such good wordplay, right? Oh, sorry.
Enoko's bear traps are controlled by her hand motions. This is shown quite well in her portrait art. Being as new as she is, there hasn't been much of any appearances by her. So while we know she can't get rid of the jewels she wears, there's no actual indication that she can remove the bear traps.
Other than common sense.
According to Chiare's Omake, her species is Tenkajin.
Okay, I actually just want to mention real quick.
Other than common sense.
It's really funny, because you know that when people, like, when people have to make, like, a player 1, player 2 side for a portrait art, they just flip the damn thing, right? 9 times out of 10, you don't even notice it, but it's really funny when they write words on the character, because then you fucking notice it. Look where it says, "Welcome to Hell." It says, "Ot Lorf." Lorf. What does Lorf mean? Nobody knows what Lorf is. So, like, we know that people do this. Like, they just flip the portrait, because no one's going to redraw the whole fucking thing, right? But it's just, there are certain things that when you mirror an image, it's obvious it's mirrored, so you need to be careful with that. And this is one of those instances when you have text and you mirror, the text is going to flip, and it's going to be very obvious.
According to Chiare's Omake, her species is Tenkajin, and her true form is that of a Mujina. One of Chiare's main quirks as a character is being mistaken for a chupacabra, even extending to her theme name, Anzuncommon. Apparently, Mujina primarily refers to badgers, but is often confused as tanuki. meaning Chiyuri's in-universe issues of being identified incorrectly as a more well-known creature aren't too dissimilar from her real-world basis.
I feel like if I had better understanding of Japanese, I could have explained that better. But essentially, Mujina is like refers to badgers, but I guess somehow, some way, it's read or interpreted as Tanuki, and obviously like Tanuki are way better known, right? So I thought it was really neat because the omake specifies that she's that, and she also has an in-universe identity crisis where she's a Tenkajin, but then people think she's a Chupacabra. And it's like, oh, her origins and like real world, like her real world inspirations are very similar to her in-universe like dilemma. I thought that was really neat, but I don't feel like I did a very good job explaining kind of how Mojina and Tanuki kind of are related relative to how Chupacabra and Tenkaji. You know, I don't think I did a very good job with it, but I tried because it was very interesting for the character, I thought.
While the majority of Hisami's expressions heavily obscure her eyes, none of them completely hide both. Her boss sprite, however, doesn't show her eyes at all.
None of them do, by the way.
Face with the classic unimportant character shadow.
Yeah, so as you can see, her eyes poke through her little veil in all of her portrait arts, but in her boss sprite, her eyes are completely obscured. You can't see them at all. So I thought that was very neat. That like Zung kind of has the eyes there, and obviously some of her portraits, the flower flips up and you can see her eyes perfectly, but none of her little boss cut-ins actually you can see her eyes at all.
You can see in Zamu's defeated art that her shorts go all the way up to her boobs. I'm actually not sure if this still qualifies as shorts, and if they don't, what do they qualify as? Regardless, now that I know this, all I can think of is this.
Very true. That is definitely Zamu right there. I'm cool. Look how cool she is. She's so cool. The underworld loves her.
And there you go. One or more pieces of fairly useless trivia on every relevant Touhou character so
Look at
far
that.
in the series.
Look at that. The cane, old history. That's because we're at the end. All that before us. Well, I guess that's trodden land, but it's old history.
There were a number of characters who it was hard to choose just one thing for.
Remy.
A number where it was hard to choose even one to begin with.
Yep.
By the way, if you were wondering, Great Fairy Wars was the exception I mentioned.
I'm sure you
As
noticed.
It felt better to include the Gengetsu Fairies as part of their game, as opposed to their original debuts in 2005.
Yep.
Also, if you're wondering, why did you otherwise do all...
Let me explain that. So,
opposed to their original debuts in 2005.
So like I said there, Eastern and Little Nature Deity debuted in 2005, went on hiatus for a while, and then came back with Makoto Hirasawa. But 2005 is an era that's like sandwiched with like Renosuke and Renko and Maribel and just all the other things. It felt really weird to jam them in there. So instead I opted to put them in the spot with 12.8 for Fairy Wars between UFO and 10 Desires. Because I thought that would be better for the three of them instead of kind of just... Because I don't think anybody ever really thinks of these three from their debut in 2005. So I figured it'd be easier if I just keep them relative to a game appearance, even though they are classified as written word characters. Because they got their own game.
Also, if you're wondering, why did you otherwise do all entries by date of release, except for spin-off games, going off of their order, instead of just grouping the characters by main game, spin-off game, and written works? Isn't that just needlessly confusing? Yes. But it got you to pay attention, right?
Did it? Did you pay attention? And you like this? You see how this cane spell card? Next history.
You enjoyed this little project.
Next
and that maybe
history.
You learned something new. This video has gone on long enough,
Next.
so I'll see myself out with this. No trivia is truly useless if it's related to your favorite Touhou. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you during the next incident.
Next history, boys. Next history. Alright, there you go. My video done. Did you learn, chat? Did you learn? What did you learn? Did you learn anything new? Tell me if you learned anything new. Yeah? Tell me if you learned anything new. You want to read the comments? Let's read the comments. I'm sure the comments will be very good. Let's read the comments, boys. Let me just pause it. Oh shit, is that a comment? No. That CFG is live? What? What? 5:08 p.m.? No! Alright, hold on. I wanna just play this theme. It's very good. Comments. 65 comments. I don't think you can fix Jun, man. What the fuck do you know? Huh? What do you know? Huh? Shipping and Touhou project. Whoa. 4 replies. After a time, your temple stated that Jun only steals from those who can afford to lose money. Fixing her isn't just possible, it's already underway. This guy's got a Jun icon. Just so you know. But industry plant. No. Shut up. Look, the reason I said that was because... Did you even pay attention to the video? You like how I can pull out exactly where she is?
Back legit. And Dorami's win quote against Jun.
Do you see? I said because of Dorami's win quote. What is Dorami's win quote? You'd really like to live a modest and simple life, don't you? I am nothing if not modest and simple life. Modest in the sense that I don't live in, luxury. Simple as in I am the simplest motherfucker possible. I fit this criteria. I fit it. This is me. This is me. This is literally me. This is me. Anyway. One day Jun will have honest career instead of being swindler. I'm not trying to fix her. I'm letting her make me worse. You're wrong. You're stupid. Just trust the process. That guy gets it. She isn't wearing shorts. She's wearing longs. That's yes. Yes. That's perfect. That's a perfect explanation for that. LOL. They aren't balding. They are malding. Comment. That's a good comment. I don't like to be actually, but this is no entry sign, not a stop sign. Stop sign, classic red octagon with stop written on it. Why did you feel like you could have just left it at that? But why did you have to explain what a stop sign is? Like I'm fucking stupid, huh? Why did you gotta explain it like I'm fucking stupid? The stop sign is an octagon. Whatever. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Welcome, Mommy's Land animation is probably a reference to the folk tale of Kachi Kachiyama. In the tale, the most notable scene is when the protagonist, a rabbit, sets the antagonist, a tanuki, on fire. Oh! Wait. That's really cool, actually. Is she a rabbit, though? I thought she was a rat. I thought she was a rat. My bad. My bad! If that's true, that's really cool. I didn't know that. That was really cool. 3209 based.
Quote against Jun suggests.
Oh, 3209. Yes, very big. Yes. Small correction. Ron is also visible without her hat in the Touhou 19 ending. Is that true? Wait, I don't remember that, chat. Is that true? Does Ron not wear her hat in the 19 ending? I actually don't remember. No, that's Yukari. It is, that's true. Wait, is it true? We have conflicting answers. We have conflicting answers, chat. It's the same frame where Yukari looks dopey. I need his image, because I don't remember that. I would have included that if I remembered that. Aya's fountain pen using an alcoholic ink. Yes, they exist. Confirmed by Lore Master Aspri FM. Who the fuck's that guy? Sounds like a jackass. I didn't know that. I don't remember the endings very well. And also, 19 is a hard game to find endings for. Oh, by the way, this right here that you see, this is a really fucking good video. I highly recommend it if you're interested in Twilight Princess at all to watch this video. 2025 Twilight Princess 100% world record commentary by Bewildered Beast. Very fucking good. Very fucking good. I like to believe that the temperature around the mausoleum is just cool enough for Letty to be there without heating up. That is a perfectly reasonable explanation for that. I don't even know if she appears in other stages in the game. I like that. I like that idea. I'm gonna steal that. When we all needed him most, he returned. I've been here the whole fucking time. Why do... Whatever, dude. I'm not dead. I'm active. I am active, but not on this channel. But people are like, this guy's dead. He's just gone forever. I am very clearly active. Alright? I'm still alive. I just don't really post on this channel if I have nothing to post. And I really don't like social media. So I just don't post on social media like at all. In fact, my activity is pretty much limited to what I do when I am on stream. Which is not the greatest idea for marketing. But I really don't like social media. I think social media is very bad for a lot of reasons, but I think it's very bad for a person. Anyway, banger video, very cool. Learn fact Touhou, no real chance of knowing beforehand. I may not remember half of this trivia an hour from now, but fun sure was had along the way. Look at that. You're gonna forget all of that information? I wouldn't forget that information. Zamu is just wearing the baggiest unitard in history. I don't remember what a unitard looks like. Inabove, the moon, and the earth is canon to me. That's fine. Welcome back. Glad to see you uploaded again. I'm not dead! There's a whole other channel that uploads near daily. Whatever, bro. I read somewhere that Tengu's hats can be used as cups for booze, so there's an alcohol container in that cover art. Is that true? Wait, is that true? Can they use their hats as sake cups? Wait, that's kind of cool if that's true. The king has returned with Bengor. Watch the video, dude. When the world needed him most, he returned. Bro, watch the video. Stop commenting, watch the video. In the extra stage 12:15, Marisa's expression changes to a bored face when Junko and Akati are chatting in the post-fight dialogue. Oh! Oh, that's another instance of portrait art changing when the character's not in focus. I need to see that before... I mean, I don't think he's lying. I don't think he's lying. I think he's telling the truth. But that's cool. He's so gracious. Who, me? No, I don't like that comment. That's good to know. Thank you for that information. You didn't have to post LOL, because LOL can be read as sarcasm. Like, I should have just known that. But I'm not going to take it as sarcasm, because I think that was actually great information. I didn't know that. Thank you. SMH, totally missed Rinsatsuki and Jacket Co. and Label Co. Fake fan. Can I read my description? Today I said to find one piece of useless trivia for every existing important Touhou character in the series, except Touhou 20. Important. Important. Does anybody know what the word important means? Does anybody know what the word important means? Please, tell the class. Tell the class. One useless bit of trivia for Chamada is that none of her spell cards have a suffix in their name, like Dream Sign, Magic Cannon, or Illusion. You mean prefix? Suffix goes at the end. I think she's the only one with this trait until Zanmu. Huh? Yay, one PF, my fave Touhou tuber, finally upload a rare occurrence. Motherfucker, I upload on my channel every goddamn day! Okay. Whatever. Waronker. Onker. You missed a few technically, so I'll fish out some trivia. If this isn't good trivia, I'm gonna kill you. For some reason, Ubami. Who the fuck is Ubami? Bio and spell card cut in user her defeated portrait instead of her default one, kind of giving her the opposite problem of Sanyo. Who's Ubami? Who's Ubami? Bio and spell card cut in user her did you... What? I don't... Who's Ubami? Despite being a completely different nature from things like spirits, yokai, Chimi has the exact same surname as Nue. Not just the pronunciation, saying kanji and everything. We'll see whether this becomes relevant until the 20's full version. I kind of doubt it. It's even weird as Naruko lists off a Nue, a Shimi, and a Moryu as 3 distinctive creatures depending on the stone ring he was holding, despite Shimi being a Shimi Moryu. I'm gonna vomit. I'm gonna fucking vomit. That's what I'm gonna do. Ah. Ow. Naruto is based. That's all I needed to see. Asper, you are not slick with how much you love Jun. That's not slick. That's what? What? I never said I was slick. I don't even talk about Jun that much. I don't even talk about her that much. There are some motherfuckers who will show up whenever their character is mentioned in passing, and they'll be like, "Man, nobody understands this character but me." Do I do that? I don't do that. I do not do that. I don't do that at all. I literally don't do that at all. What are you talking about? Have you seen these motherfuckers? I can't even say the name Yomu without somebody fucking showing up and being like, "Oh, I'm Reimu's #1 fan, and everything I say is 100% factual, and you were wrong." Like, bro? God damn. I don't do that. I don't and never have done that. You're all lying. You're all lying. You're all trying to gaslight your streamer. You are all bad people. You're all bad people for me. I can't believe you would say that about me. Glad I didn't have anything to do this morning to watch right after upload. Good. You should watch it even when you do have something to do. Somebody want to comment on Windows Rainbow Trivia. I've been going through and drawing all the Touhou characters based on their in-game sprites and Rainbow's personal night sprites. Ambiguous as to whether she's wearing under her shirt. It's actually an undershirt of Sarashi. And Ian is a completely horizontal strip of white cloth. When her sleeves block the rest of the view of the others, the white cloth climbs towards the shoulder as it curves around Rainbow's chest. The hem of the red over the shirt seems to flow directly into the waistband of her skirt. So we don't get the additional confirmation the other sprites to get us a lifted hem. The right shirts show the skirt waistband. Realistically, it's probably still an undershirt since it was undrawn in every other instance, but the ambiguity is still there. I don't know what he's talking about. Give me a second. I have to figure out what this guy's talking about. Jamie, pull up Reimu Hakude. Thank you. Alright. I pulled her up. Here's Reimu Hakude. Let me see. Where are you? Touhou Imperishable Night. Okay. How do I control zoom? What's the shortcut for zoom? Alright. Ambiguous. Yeah. Yeah, kinda. It does cut off, but it cuts off at a high enough distance before it can be clearly identified as an undershirt or a bandage. And you can't see the cut off between the top and the bottom. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But based on later iterations, I'd say it's very likely that it's not that. But who knows? I don't know. I see. I actually understand what he's saying. I actually understand what he's saying. He's kind of right. So it might be possible that that's what caused the Sarashi stuff in the first place. But who knows? I don't know. No amount of Mamizou facts is too many facts. That's wrong. What's your profile pic? It's a mega low punny, of course. Now we need uncool bug facts about every Touhou character. I don't think a video on uncool fun facts would be very fun, actually. I think that would be kind of bad. I don't even know what an uncool bud fact would even be. What constitutes as an uncool fact? I guess an uncool fact would be the time Reimu killed a guy and caused massive controversy to her character. But I think that's cool because she killed a guy. That's kind of cool, right? Wouldn't you say that's kind of cool? Maybe I'm kind of freak behavior. All of this yet, I still don't know why Koishin's Tori's design and maybe personality look too similar to certain CN characters. I don't know what CN character means, and what do you mean their design and maybe personality looked similar? Like, come on, Koishi being dumb, wear hat. Wow. Unique character traits right there. Satori having short hair as well as the color pink. Wow. That's definitely similar to two certain characters from a CN show. So of course she is Billy and Satori is Mandy. Corn Grim. What the? What? What do you mean? What? What? Oh my. What the fuck are you talking about? What a comment. Second channel upload. This is the main channel, Fluttershy. What are you talking about? There is no such thing as useless Sakuya information. Very correct. Very correct and based. Wake up, babe. Drop video. No. Just watch the video. These aren't facts about bugs. You tricked me. Well, there was a fact about Yamame, Momoyo, and Wriggle. So there were bug facts. Good video. I liked. That's good. Walt, waiter, I request timestamps for this long-ass video. Bro, watch the video. You forgot to include trivia about the greatest Touhou character of them all, John. I'll give you some trivia. None of your trivia is legit because I made John. John is my character. Alright? You shut up. None of this is real. None of this is real. That's all fake information. You don't get to say anything about John. Well, this will be on the exam. It's always on the exam. I'm gonna quiz you on every single video I've ever made and see how many people are true fans. Gotta have Evil Eye Sigma facts. I actually did have one Evil Eye Sigma fact, thank you. I love you, Tenchi, even if you are a little short. That's fucked up. Why'd you have to say it like that? Even if you're a little short? Why can't you love her because she's short? Gonna be outdated as soon as the full version of the new game drops, especially the meme effect. Oh my god! He's right. Shit. My video has like 2 months before it's completely outdated. Unbelievable. Sara Spin mentioned. That's legit. I heart Touhou. Cool girl facts, bro. I want more bugs, not bugs, silly goose. Epic video, good video, nice video. No fairy word trivia though. What? What do you mean no fairy word trivia? Did you even watch? Okay, I wasn't gonna make another comment, but are you serious about the Tagane fact? Dude, I can hold a card between my pinky and ring finger easily. Are you okay, mate? This guy is absolutely fucked in the head. What is this guy talking about? What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? What? How could you possibly look at that hand? How could you possibly look at that hand and not see a right hand? Are you insane? Bro, I can hold cards between my pinky and ring finger. How the fuck could you possibly explain how she's holding those cards? How? How? Oh my god. Alright, there goes my life. Where am I? For every character, yet doesn't mention Hikariko, Ayano, Mateshi, or Noriko. The word important is just gone. The word important just doesn't, it's invisible to you people. You can't read the word important. It's even bolded for people like you who can't read. Nice. They're all my wives. You fucking wish. First. Report. For terrorism. Thank you. Don't do that on my video, you son of a bitch. That's terrorism. Stay off my video. Alright. my thumbnail, special guest Wriggle, my Patreon, my Twitter, my Twitch. Let's go to my Twitch. Whoa, that's my Twitch. Whoa, look at that. All right. Sources can be found mostly in the provided paste bin. It's true. It's a big old paste bin, don't you know? Don't you know? It's where all the sources are. It's pretty good. Wow. No books. One purchase, one card. Break that. I hear you're in for some scary stuff. Bold words. Bold word. Right here. There's a bold word. There's a bold word right there. That took 4 hours. Why did it take 4 hours? Oops. Oh well. Oh well. Oh well. That's a lot of time I just spent on that. Alright. Well, I hope you enjoyed, chat. This is the video that I have made, that I have put out today. I don't have any current ideas for another video, but if I do, I will probably look into them and make something out of it. But yeah, usually when I make a video, it's because I get an idea and I'm like, oh, cool, I'll look into that. And I look into it and it actually proves to be a pretty cool video, because you can see here. My 29.2 subscriber and 50 videos. Streamer, your sub count is kind of low. Yeah, it's because I don't ask for subs at every single video, because I'm not a sellout. But these are all videos. Look at these videos. I made these. Actually, you want to know something really cool? Chat, look at this. Look at this. This video right here. The introduction video is almost at 1 million views. It's almost at 1 million. 984,000 views. That's kind of cool, actually. No other video is even close to that. Also, that video gets free like views because it's on the homepage of the channel. So you're automatically forced to watch it if you leave it on there for too long. But yeah. What are my popular videos? Yeah, that makes sense. 371, 309. Oh wow, I'm surprised the inconsistency video. That's my second newest video, and that's the 4th highest. Not moving, no grays, shipping. Oh yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool. And this one, this one's my highest highlight, 50K. Man, we gotta make more highlights of these fucking sorter ones, huh? We gotta make some more highlights of that. I drew that thumbnail, didn't I? Yeah. The lowest one's probably the soccer compilation. Well, I mean, it's that right now. Oh, it's actually that one. Okay. Magikarp. Look at all these videos I made. Wow. What an era in time. Okay. Easy views. Pornography. Why I do that? Bro, I hover over this and I get that? No wonder people are clicking it. No wonder people are clicking that shit. Alright, did we watch this video, chat? I don't remember if we did. I think we did. Why wouldn't we? I feel like we did, but it doesn't look like we watched it. Unless I watched on the other one. I don't remember. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, if I find any new ideas for videos, I'll check them out. But for now, I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you, and you know, if you feel the need, go and check it out on the actual channel. Give it a little view and pump up that number. I work hard on it. I got a lot of facts, a lot of characters. 42 minutes. I work hard. Please let me know that I did good. And yeah, I'll upload this probably a while after, and then you know, I'll give it a couple days and I'll upload it after the fact. Little developer commentary, explaining some things. It's fun to do. I like doing that. It's good. So yeah, that's all I got. Until next video, I suppose, whenever that may be.